Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Quirk Chronicles. Today, we're diving into an epic crossover What if Deku went to the 7 Deadly Sins universe after being bullied? Before we jump in, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying these crossovers. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive straight into the story. Izuku POV. Help me. Please someone help me. Her voice. Izuku, please. She's calling for me. Save her. Protect her. I will protect her. Narrator POV. As Shigaraki slowly broke Uraraka's arm apart, a dark shine was emitted from the crystal. Following up was a massive explosion in demonic energy, separating the two of them as Shigaraki let go of Uraraka's arm. Once the demonic energy fully dispersed into the air, it was revealed to be none other than Izuku Midoriya. Izuku. 4B2BBC6387.31940ACC788567.1.jpg. There he stood, his gym uniform reduced to nothing but shorts as they seemingly had been destroyed from the pure presence of this new transformation. I should have known that damn crystal wouldn't be enough to contain you. He slightly stepped back as he sneered. You really are a demon, Izuku Midoriya. Despite everything that was going on, the sight of Izuku in this new form brought the battlefield into silence. Shigaraki stood wary of his opponent, taking a slight step back as he stared into the boy's soulless eyes. They were dark and empty, like an abyss or the void. Midori. Izuku took a look at her as she nervously stared back at him. He felt so eerie in this new form. Scared her. I mean, it's not like he would hurt her or anyone else, but still just his pure presence gave her the feeling of throwing up. Not out of choice, but almost as if her body couldn't handle being in his radius. She held his sword in her hands and handed it to him. You can have this back. I won't really be needing it. She smiled nervously. Despite the current situation, she looked at the positives at that now Izuku had been freed. So there's that. That idiotic girl. She's going to get herself killed if she tries talking to him. However, despite the musty man's thoughts, it was actually quite the opposite. Izuku gently took his sword out of her hands, looking at it in almost a curious manner, sort of like a child being given a toy. He looked to the side, simply swinging his arm almost as to just try and swing the sword as if he never wielded it before. However, the 403E7467769-4F0Bec004-3FB3EB67B.jpg. In this seemingly unintentional showcase of strength, he cut the arena in half. He even cut a mountain in half despite being nowhere near one. What? Master never said this could happen. The pale villain backed up in fear, scratching at his neck in fear from this showcase of strength. Uraraka showed the same sentiment of shock from Izuku's newfound strength as well. Meanwhile, in the distance of the arena, everyone had heard the loud attack from what seemed to be miles away. What the hell was that? Oh. This doesn't bring back very fond memories. You seen this before? Yeah. It played out almost like this, except it was arguably less chaotic. Shigaraki backed up in fear, nearly stumbling as he did, raising a hand in self-defense. And now hold on, hero. I'll make you a deal, dash. If you let me go, I'll dash. Izuku suddenly appeared in front of him, grabbing his arm and completely breaking it. NGH dash? The battlefield silence was filled with nothing but Shigaraki's cry of pain, everyone looking on in a mix of horror and shock. Shigaraki collapsed on his knees as he gripped his broken arm with his other. Izuku simply looked down at him with his cold and dead eyes. No sympathy, no pity, no remorse. The only thing on his mind was protecting Uraraka. Shigaraki eventually got up and started to run towards Kurogiri, holding onto his broken arm. What's with this brat? Master never told me that he could just break out of the amber. That damn cheater? Shigaraki weakly ran to Kurogiri as he called out to him. Kurogiri, open a warp gate now and let's get OU dash. Suddenly, before Shigaraki could finish, his head was palmed by a giant dark claw. It was Izuku. He proceeded to brutally drag Shigaraki's head against the walls of the sports festival stadium. Everyone else could only look on in awe/horror as they saw this happen in front of them all. Izuku then spun in midair, still palming Shigaraki's face and slamming him in the middle of the ring. Awk? Debris was sent flying as he created a giant shockwave almost on the level of the clash he and Todoroki had prior. Shigaraki laid in a crater, coughing up blood as his skin had been peeled and suffered third-degree burns all around. Izuku looked down on him and raised his hand to get a finishing blow. Midoriya no? Bakugo tackled Izuku as so he didn't kill Shigaraki. Midoriya, stop. We won, all we have to do is let them leave. Izuku regained his footing and completely stopped them from moving as he looked at Bakugo with the same cold expression. If it's still really you in there, then you should know heroes don't kill. So snap out of it or dash. Suddenly Bakugo's head completely fell off his body as Izuku looked down at him. Everyone screamed in horror. Bakugo no? Midoriya, what have you done? He simply walked past his head, kicking it next to Uraraka as she looked down at the head in horror. Wah. She started to tear up as she looked down at Bakugo's head, started to sink into a panic. Midoriya! Todoroki charged at him, holding out Chastiful as to stop him from going any further. That's far enough. Stop this at once. He threw Chastiful at Izuku. However, the boy opened his palm and caught it. What? Izuku crushed Chastiful in his hand and shattered it, leaving it in pieces. How did dash? Before he could finally react to what was happening, Izuku suddenly appeared in front of him and kicked him across the face, sending him to the floor. Uraraka only looked on in horror as everyone tried to stop Izuku and failed trying. He didn't exactly kill them, but he kept critically injuring them. If this went on for any longer, he would kill everyone here besides her. What could she do? She was terrified. She didn't know what to do. How could she dash? Pink cheeks. Snap out of it. She looked down at Bakugo's head, who was seemingly regenerating his body back slowly but surely. You're alive. Of course I am. If he went for my heart, I would have been dead by now. He then took a deep breath and looked at her. Listen, Pink cheeks. We can't brute force our way through this. He's way too strong for that. As he explained this, Izuku only kept overpowering everyone who stood in his way. Even Momo, who was arguably in the best condition, stood no chance at all. So then, what do you want me to do? Talk to him, damn it. He seems to not bring himself to hurt you. Her eyes widened at this. Bakugo was right. Throughout all of this, Izuku had gone out of his way to not hurt her this whole time. Why, you're right. I'm the only one who can stop him. She gained the courage to stand up, looking towards the crater where Izuku likely was heading to. She was a hero too. Right now, everyone needed her to do this. Not even just them. Izuku needed her help too. It's clear this isn't Izuku, as he would never do something like this. This wasn't him. Izuku made his way to Shigaraki's body as he raised his sword arm, creating a giant blade of darkness from it. 81E5003CB8CF29EC5D637A469E968.jpg. Must protect. Shigaraki's eyes widened as he looked at his slowly incoming demise. He felt his whole life flashing before his eyes. His childhood, his father, his mother, his dog. And that damned house? Izuku, stop. He actually did, turning around curiously to see who was there to fight him this time. Just stop. We've won now, so please stop hurting everyone. Izuku looked around, seeing the destruction around him. The arena was destroyed. He had split the stadium in half basically. He had killed all the Nomu, and in the process he hurt his own friends. He suddenly collapsed on his knees as Uraraka ran over to him and caught him in her arms, hugging him tightly. I'm here. I'm safe and sound. Izuku sank into the hug, simply wrapping one arm around her and mumbled, "Oh, Chaco." Silence filled the air as they hugged, everyone slowly recovering and watching as they did. Seems like she has this under control. Seems so. Midnight and Endeavor commented as they watched the two deeply embrace each other. Isn't young love a beautiful thing, Endeavor? This is a terrible time to be talking about this right after. Whoosh, boom. Izuku's feet skid on the dirt as he panted, blood dripping from his sword hand as he held Uraraka by the waist in a protective manner. Izuku, what happened? Your arm just dash. Well, looks like you did grow pretty strong. I'm impressed. A man clapped his hands, having been summoned by Kurogiri, as he looked down at Izuku and Uraraka with a smile. Endeavor looked up at the man as he gritted his teeth and clenched his fist. He had remembered this villain from a long time ago. It's you. C4A511C6211C2E973F78D77AA1C06E9.jpg. All for one. Glad you still know who I am, Endeavor, even with this disgusting look. Suddenly he appeared in front of Shigaraki and threw him over his shoulder. So much destruction. I can only think it was caused by you. He pointed at Izuku, who was holding on to Uraraka, keeping her safe. I'm certainly impressed. So much destruction and chaos brought to UA. By my dear son. This brought shock to everyone, with Uraraka looking at him. Do you know this guy Izuku? As she said this, Izuku's aura suddenly flared as he let go of her. He started to growl as the darkness on his body proceeded to continue taking over his body. Oh my! This will get interesting. Suddenly Shigaraki puked out some sludge as it teleported him off All for One's shoulder. RAH. Suddenly, almost as if he was a beam of light, he dashed up to All for One. As he threw his fist, All for One blocked it with an evil grin. Oh son, don't you know not to swing on your father? Endeavor yelled out, Midoriya, that isn't your father anymore. That is the #1 villain. All for One. So don't hesitate to fight. With these words in mind, the force of Izuku's punch grew as he yelled, the surprised All for One being somewhat forced back. Haven't I told you not to listen to strangers? Maybe you need more discipline. Izuku growled in anger. I will kill you. The father and son were at a stand still mid-air, everyone waiting in anticipation on what will transpire next. Suddenly he grabbed his son by his wrist, bringing him up to look him in the eyes. When your father is talking to you, you know it's rude to not look him in the eye. Izuku then charged a fire attack from his mouth, as he then was kneed in the stomach. The attack dissipating Hawk Dash, he clutched his stomach with a hand. As he raised his sword hand, take this. He swung down the blade only for All for One to catch it with his hand. Such barbaric actions. But then again, I can't exactly blame you for this berserk state of being you're in. He looked on completely shocked, trying to force the blade to cut his hand. This was met with a scoff as then blood. Down below, Uraraka and the others currently still up and conscious looked in shock. A severed arm, planted right on the broken arena. Blood spewed from the severed arm as the sound of a painful scream could be heard. A dash. A. The blade had also fell to the floor as it was still attached to the arm. Suddenly his severed arm started to float as a dark stream of energy attached itself to it. What's going on? Bakugo looked up at the arm floating in the air. As it flew off, reattaching itself to Izuku's missing arm. The hell is this? Aizawa looked on with the others, having finished escorting people out of the building. Something had always rubbed him the wrong way with the green-haired boy. He was going to have a talk to him after this, if he survives. Izuku reattached his arm as he moved it. It looked good as new. I'm surprised. It seems you're far more advanced in your skills than I thought. His father clapped his hands. Izuku could just feel how condescending he was acting, which only annoyed him more. Stop treating me like a damn child? He escaped his grip, then kicking him in the stomach. How's that? Only for a chuckle to be exchanged as he turned to him. Mind giving me another? I need to wake myself, and you're not helping in my fight against slumber. This earned an annoyed reaction from him, trying to sledgehammer into the floor, though he dodged it and grabbed him by the face. I wonder how everyone will treat you after this? Could you be treated as a demon? Most likely. Suddenly, he could feel the heat on his palm increased as he backed up. As he looked back towards Izuku. How dare you ever compare me to the likes of you? He yelled as the power oozed off him, the marks on his body expanding. Such impulsive reactions. Weird. You're way more mature than this from what I've heard. He flew at him once again as he started to attack him rapidly, seemingly getting faster. Interesting. He's still getting stronger the longer it goes on, to the point I have to dodge. This would be easier if I was completely healed and be at my full power dash. His train of thought was cut off as he received a clean blow to the head as he staggered back. Finally, I got a clean blow. He tapped his face. The bruise was visible. Why are you so silent? What happened to the crap you were saying? An evil flow of energy could be felt. You animal. He proceeded to appear behind Izuku, back handing him with his fist, sending him to the floor. Sorry, lost a bit of myself. Let's end this little charade. He charged an attack from his fingertips. Izuku was trying to get up as he was out of breath. Izuku! Endeavor, Momo, Bakugo, and Uraraka all make a charge at him, going to protect him. Cementos proceeded to make a wall to protect him. We won't let you, as All for One saw all their attempts, proceeding to smile as he whispered something. Suddenly dark tendrils with red highlights shot from his fingers, piercing Cementos's wall and coming from the other side. The wall collapsed along with Izuku as he fell to the floor. Everyone looked on horrified as they saw the strongest person here, their student and our friend, hit the floor and the marks retract and disappear. They got a closer look at him. Izuku. Her voice cracked and went weak as she saw his body. He had been pierced right through the heart. She clung to him as she held on to him. Please don't die, Bakugo looked up furiously at the man who had done this to his best friend. What the hell is wrong with you? That's your kid. How could you do that to him? This received a small chuckle from him. It was simply discipline. The demon marking disappeared from his forehead. Was that always there? Bakugo could only think it appeared after Izuku had struck him. Plus, I don't need to explain myself to you. He snapped his fingers as sludge seemingly came from Shigaraki's mouth, causing them to disappear. Everyone in Class 1A and Class B even mourned as they surrounded his dead body. Endeavor and the pros looked on, simply ashamed in themselves as they had just let a child die because he protected him instead of the other way around. Please don't leave. Don't leave us. Uraraka's tears hit his face as all of a sudden he started to have a faint breath. This had everyone shocked, especially Uraraka. Please wake up, Izuku. Suddenly the brunette started to glow before letting off a golden light, engulfing everyone and the surrounding area. Real grass had started to glow over the fake grass, flowers blooming all around. Everyone suddenly felt completely rejuvenated, all their injuries healing. Wah! My injuries, they're gone. I feel great, said Momo, everyone else feeling the same thing. Uraraka, what's happening? Mina said, shocked, as she looked up, also confused. I don't know, One of her eyes had seemingly changed as it was now a color of gold with a unique pupil. A318AB68F1D5C9693593598Fa0B7E2FC.jpg. The hole in Izuku's chest had also healed as he opened his eyes as he got up. What happened? Why is it all grassy and why are there flowers? Izuku. He was immediately brought into a hug by Uraraka as he looked on. Uraraka. He hugged back as he looked up at everyone. Hey guys. Everyone else looked at him happy, some tearing up like Momo and Bakugo as everyone celebrated he was alive. Thanks, though I wasn't exactly dead, he said, running his fingers through Uraraka's hair. This earned a confused reaction as Aizawa specifically spoke up. What do you mean? You were shot through the heart. And while Uraraka's ability to heal may seem strong, I doubt it can bring back organs. Almost on cue, Uraraka looked up to him. Do I feel 6 other heartbeats? This caused Izuku to turn somewhat red as he realized he was almost completely naked if not for his shorts. Uraraka turned red as she could feel his body heat visibly change. Sorry, I forgot. As Izuku responded, No. I understand, don't worry about it. But anyways, to answer that, yeah, I have 7 hearts, well 6 now. That's because me and my dad are demons. It's been a week since the attack on the sports festival. The heroes at UA gave their students a week-long break after the attack. This was because of multiple things. They had to spend time covering up the attack and make up a story of how Endeavor, with the help of the other pros, held his own against All for One, making him flee. This was the second major crisis in a single year. The heroes had to face backlash from the public on how they had to up security and etc. The Midoriya household. Inko Midoriya, she was stress-eating more and more. Ever since the UA Sports Festival, Izuku has been acting somewhat different. He's been acting somewhat more and more independent. Sure, she may be worrying over nothing because that's how teenagers are getting more and more independent. However, he has been training way more than he usually does. Usually he trains until it's time for dinner, but now he stays up late just for training, which is where she is now. She was sitting in a chair, waiting for her baby. She checked the time on her phone and it was 9:48 p.m. The sun has already set and now it was dark outside. She sighed as she wrapped up his food with transparent foil as to let it not go to waste. I'm home, said the boy, lightly opening the door, rubbing the back of his head. Sorry I'm late again. I've be dash. Training, yes, I know, sweetie, she sighed. She appreciated Izuku apologizing, but this has gone on for a whole week, so she kinda knows what to expect, not to mention him showing up was enough for her. He sat down in a chair, looking at her in the eyes as to not be rude. However, she could see he forgot to turn off his quirk again. She didn't exactly like to look at this all the time. The physical changes from the marking were visible. She would know more than anyone because it's her son and it's his quirk, but she sees that the marking has progressively gotten bigger. 2E29E986C3EC3 2DD78B46AE0F611855E.jpg. It had somewhat overtaken more of Izuku's being, as she just looked at him. Honey, you forgot to turn off your quirk again. This caused the boy to jump as he turned it off. Sorry, dash. I forgot. He looked around. Not to be rude, but where's dinner? She unwrapped the food from the transparent foil, putting it on the table. It's a little cold. He waved his hand. It's okay. That my fault for not coming home earlier. He started to eat, with Inko watching. She liked to see this. He's just enjoying her food, not training himself or anything, but them sitting down and talking over dinner like the old days. She worried, though, ever since he signed up to UA. It has been nothing but him fighting and getting put in danger. She just wanted him to be safe and sound. Was this getting too dangerous for him? The next day, Izuku just departed from his house. He proceeded to get on the train that he usually takes to get over there. However, he didn't expect people to actually notice him. Hey, you're that kid from the sports festival, said a passenger which had eyes laid on him. He was surprised, somewhat flustered. He didn't get noticed a lot even when he started going to UA. However, the sports festival had given him way more popularity than before. He felt quite flattered at everyone acknowledging him. However, it ended once he got off the train. He was walking to UA, until suddenly Tenya ran past him. Come on, Midoriya. We should be at least 10 minutes early for school. The boy then proceeded to run into the building with the blue-haired glasses boy, making it inside the building. They walked together to class, having a little conversation. Ida, is your brother okay? You seemed in a real big hurry ever since you got the call about it. Ida turned to him and did his hand-chopping motion he usually did. You don't have to worry, thankfully. He is doing fine. I'm sorry for making you worry. It was a nice walk to class. Well, it was. Isn't that the green-haired demon kid? Izuku suddenly heard a whisper as he passed a few UA students. He turned to see that it was true in that a group of students were whispering while looking towards him. Seems that we gained more attention. Not the good kind of it either. Meliodas couldn't have been more right. The more students they passed, the more he was talked about. Didn't he killed a bunch of monsters during the attack? Don't let him hear you, dash. He might go after us too. How is he not expelled? Heroes don't kill. Bet he's an undercover villain. How come he's still allowed to be here? He shouldn't be a hero. Izuku had the misfortune of hearing all of them, his eyes widening as his expression changed to an expression of shock and sadness. Midoriya, something wrong? Ida could see his face visibly change as he did a chopping motion. Nothing, dash. Just a little sad you had to deal with all that stuff with your brother in the hospital. He smiled. I told you he's fine. Nothing to worry over. They entered the classroom. Unfortunately, this type of attention didn't end. Once they got in, some of their classmates looked at them and then turned away, now seemingly uncomfortable. Ida was none the wiser. They must all be shaken up about that villain attack towards the sports festival. Wish I were there to help, but unfortunately I was at the hospital checking on my brother. Izuku laughed nervously. Why, yeah, that. He sat down and was approached by his usual friends. Hey, Midoriya, said Bakugo as he sat down next to him. How's it going, buddy? Hope you've been training for the past week. I sure have. Izuku looked at him, grinning. Of course I have. Why wouldn't I? He could use this, especially since so far his entire time had been of him dealing with backlash of his outburst at the festival. Good morning, Izuku-an, Uraraka said happily, with Izuku turning to her and smiling. Good morning to you as well, Achiko-chan. Aizawa walked into the room a few minutes later. He took a small glance at Izuku, which made the boy nervous. After all, he did tell Aizawa back at the sports festival. Flashback. Me and my dad are demons. He touched his chest where his heart seemingly used to be. Usually demons are born with more than one heart. I have a count of 7. Down to 6 now though. We are powerful beings obviously with overwhelming strength, agility, endurance, and etc. more than an average human. He turned on his demon marking. We have something called magic instead of quirks. This is a demon marking. It's not exactly magic, but it increases our strength by a great amount. I can use darkness, aka create a solid form of it and shape it as what I want. Like a quirk of creation. End of flashback. Aizawa proceeded to go up to the front of the class. I hope all of you had a good little break. Ever since we were attacked at the sports festival, we've had to up the security to make sure we can assure our students' safety. I understand some of you may be unsure of how to feel and nervous since the revelation. He turned to Izuku, proceeding to sigh as he focused back on the rest of the class, but we must not revel in it to the point where it stunts your growth as heroes in training. Speaking of growth, this next week or so of working is going to mold the foundation of your career as heroes. The class looked on, getting antsy in the thought of starting actual hero work and such. It's time for your hero internships. It's time for your hero internships. The class looked on, completely excited until Shinso raised his hand. Mr. Aizawa, aren't we supposed to choose our hero names before we choose our internships? Aizawa nodded, of course. However, I won't be the one helping you with that. The class door suddenly opened, the class focusing on the noise. That would be me. It was the R-rated hero Midnight. As she walked to the front with Aizawa, Midnight will be the one who'll assist you with your names. He proceeded to get in his sleeping bag. Don't be too damn loud or else. Lying down and going to sleep. Now that he's out the way, we can all get you started on your hero names. She clasped her hands together, seeming way more excited than Mr. Aizawa to the point it was kinda weird. It was like night and day. I'll give all of you 15 minutes to write your hero names on the board I'm giving to all of you right now. She passed out a board to everyone in the class. As she went back in front, as she took out her phone and put on a 15-minute timer. Ida POV. I looked at my board. I didn't know what to choose. I ruffled my hair. I couldn't figure out the fuck to do. Wow, that isn't exactly like me to curse. I've tried to keep up the facade that my brother was all right and that he'll be fine. I felt so stupid. I lied to them about how I felt despite the fact it'll be on TV or something soon. Flashback. It was a hospital bed, a rush to get equipment to help the survival of the turbo hero, Ingenium. I don't know what happened. He had gotten fatally injured against a villain known as the Hero Killer. Completely had me at a loss. The doctors told us that there was nothing they could have done, so they let us have our last few words with him. We were utterly horrified at what we saw. He had lost all of his limbs, both his arms and his legs, and a giant slash on his back that we couldn't see that somewhat destroyed his ribs. Ida, please, carry on the torch of Ingenium. F for me. I nodded, tears flowing down my face which dropped onto him. I will. Dash. I will Tensei. One more thing before I go. Please. Please don't go after the Aro. Kill. His voice got weaker as the heart monitor reciprocated a heart-wrenching beep, with Tensei passing away in front of us. End of flashback. I made up my mind. I will become the new Ingenium in place for my brother. I wrote down my hero name, knowing the expectations placed on me with a name like this. 15 minutes later, the timer eventually stopped as a noise signifying the end came up. Time's up, everyone. Put down your markers and come up, so I can judge and approve of your hero name. Shinso was the first to go up, and sort of in Aizawa fashion, he didn't really seem all enthusiastic. My hero name is Invader. He flipped the board, showing his hero name written in kanji. I think it's a good hero name. Fits you. Midnight gave him the green light for it. The other students had some good hero names as well. Tsuyu was proclaimed the rainy season hero. Froppy. Ojiro called himself the martial arts hero. Tailman. Denki became the stun gun hero, Chargebolt. Hakigure became stealth hero, Invisible Girl. Mina would be known as Pinky. Tokoyami the jet black hero, Tsukuyami. Zero as the incredible taping hero, Cellophane. Jiro hearing hero, Earphone Jack. Rikido Sato sweets hero, Sugarman. Ajiro Kirishima sturdy hero, Red Riot. Achiko Uraraka otherwise known as Uravity. Momo Yairozu Earth Queen. Tenya Ida Ingenium. While there was a lot of unique names, there were also some stupids that didn't really put as much thought into their hero names. My hero name is Shoto. Eh? That's just your first name. She seemed kinda confused at first from his decision, in which he responded, I want people to feel safe no matter who I am supposed to be. I don't want a name that'll make people look at the normal me differently than the one that's supposed to make them feel at ease. After the explanation, her eyes widened as she nodded, I see. Well, I am sorry for not being familiar with the message you were trying to say, which was received by a nod. It's all right. Bakugo practically had the same type of thing in mind, hero name Katsuki, which Midnight looked at him, I see. I suppose your naming is the same as Shoto's. Yeah, of course it is. Kid, we all know you were too lazy to just come up with a name. Shut it, old man. Then it was left up to Izuku, who walked up to the front. He could feel it, all the eyes on him. The awkward tension in the air with some of his normal classmates. His eyes wandered over to Shoto, Mina, Bakugo, Shinso, and Uraraka, who all were looking eager to hear what their friend's hero name was going to be. He took a deep sigh, showing his board, my hero name is Wrath. He smiled. I wanted this as my name, because I want to bring down the wrath of justice down to villains to create a better world for everyone to live in. Midnight gave a smile. I get it. Don't worry, you pass. She gave him a thumbs up. Izuku in return gave a happy grin. Really? Wow. Thank you. Thank you. This reaction also brought many smiles in his class. All of them talking about their cool new flashy hero names that they chose. All right. Settle down, you animals. Their tired teacher Aizawa had just woken up from his nap, causing them to go quiet. Since you finally finished creating your hero names, let's put those hero names to work. You'll be choosing a hero internship to really start your career. Since you finally finished creating your hero names, let's put those hero names to work. You'll be choosing a hero internship to really start your career. Aizawa moved out the way of the board, showing all of the pro hero recommendations. We never usually have internships for first years, but count yourselves lucky. All the pros are rather interested in your futures. You and Class 1B did well at the festival. The hero nominations were relatively balanced, at least for the top 4 nominees. Todoroki Shoto, 2134. Bakugo Katsuki, 2071. Momo Yaoyorozu, 1620. Mina Todoroki, 1021. Tenya Ida, 496. Tokoyami, 491. Achiko Uraraka, 200. Denki Kaminari, 121. Kirishima, 100. 092. Izuku looked at the board, scouting for himself on the nominees. Unfortunately, and somewhat unsurprisingly to him, he didn't even get a single nomination by the pro heroes. As disappointing this was to see, he wasn't surprised as much. I mean, why would they choose me? I totally lost it at the sports festival. All because of... The grip on his arms tightened. He shook his head to snap himself out of it. Oi, Captain, how many pros did you get nominated by? Bakugo basically yelled towards him. Dash. Me? Oh, I kinda didn't get any. He looked down somewhat saddened. Wow, that is a bummer. You unfortunately won't be able to get into any agencies, Mina said, kinda confused on why he didn't get any. Aizawa proceeded to interrupt their conversation. Even if you didn't get a nomination, you'll still have to participate in an internship. Thankfully for those students, we had 40 pro heroes agreed to take on apprentices from UA, each of them specializing in an aspect of heroism. Isn't that great, Izuku-in? Achiko exclaimed to him, happy her friend does get to participate. Yeah, that's great. Although he doubted his own personal level of control, it was still nice that he could participate like a normal student. Quiet. Ahem. You all have till the end of the week to choose one workplace from your respective list. Choose wisely, because you may not get to choose a different one once you've locked in. Yes, sir. The staff room after class. Aizawa was sorting out the hero internships. Knowing these kids, they might take a little time before they actually choose an internship. He noted to himself. However, almost like an act of God came to prove him wrong. Huh? What's this? It was in fact Ida's workplace choice. This somewhat surprised him. Hosu City Hero Office. He looked on somewhat confused. There were way more better nominations for Ida than this one, however, he didn't question it much. Now that he looked at it, more students except just Ida already made a decision. Maybe this would be faster than he thought initially. About a week later, the day of the workplace field training had arrived. Class 1A is at the train station with Mr. Aizawa, in which his job to escort them safely to their workplaces. I want to remind all of you, you have your hero costumes, however. Do not wear them in public and do not lose them. One last things, mind your manners. Wish you all luck. Students went one by one on a train towards their workplaces. Tenya's train had arrived. As the dark blue-haired boy walked to his train, his friends had stopped him. Ida, if you need someone to talk to, you can talk to me, Katsuki and Achiko. Ida nodded, I will. He turned to walk away. He was seemingly holding back tears. He hated that he had to turn away from them. He needed someone to talk to about his dead brother. They most likely knew about it from the news due to the fact they even brought it up, which only made him hate this decision more. Flashback to 2 days ago. It was Tensei's funeral. Ida and his family grieved. They didn't invite anyone like Class 1A just because this was a family thing and they all just wanted to be alone with each other to ease the pain. It would be on the news at this time, so it wasn't like they wouldn't be consoled by others. Flashback end. He went onto the train, starting to wonder if this is really what he wanted. The revenge and blood he wanted. Is this really something a hero would do? After a while, Uraraka and Bakugo left for their respective trains, which then just left Izuku and Tokoyami? They both awkwardly stood there, neither having the real capacity to start a conversation. Izuku felt really awkward at the fact this is the first time he was talking to one of his classmates that had kinda seen his rampage back in the sports festival. However, Tokoyami surprisingly broke the silence. I'm not scared, you know. Izuku turned to him kinda shocked and confused. Just because of what happened in the sports festival, that isn't going to change how I treat you. You're still a classmate of mine and an ally. This actually made Izuku smile. He needed to hear this after all the flack and bad reputation he's been getting since that happened. Wow, thanks. I needed that, Tokoyami. He nodded. It's alright, I understand. Suddenly, Izuku's train had arrived as he got on. Well, see ya. Thanks for the conversation. He thought he was going to be by himself. Midoriya, we both go on the same train. Oh dash. Apparently he would be able to talk with Tokoyami more than he thought. Wow, thanks. I needed that, Tokoyami. It's alright, I understand. Well, see ya. Thanks for the conversation. Midoriya, we both go on the same train. Oh, they both awkwardly entered the train. Soon enough, the train started moving across the rails as Izuku turned to Tokoyami. Sue, who do you think our sensei is going to be like? I can imagine them being somewhat like Aizawa sensei, a wise but stern and strict person. As he said this, he imagined their sensei sternly staring at them. A brow raised, really? I kind of expect it to be like Midnight Sensei or something. He imagined their sensei to be very cheerful and outgoing. I would doubt that. Most pro heroes are professionals after all, so they most likely act professional as well. Which he was kinda right about. Yeah, I guess you're right. Eventually they had made it to their stop, Kyushu, Japan. It was well known this place was third largest of the 4 main islands in Japan. It seemed pretty mainstream to where they lived. So, Aizawa sensei told us to look for a hero office somewhere here. He proceeded to walk around Tokoyami in tow. Do we even know what these buildings look like? Yeah, they're a green and pink building. We'll be able to sign up to Hawk's agency there. Oh, I see though. Do we even know where we have to go to find it? New? This response was followed by almost a half an hour of searching for the hero office, possibly even longer. Eventually they did find the building, though it was very time-consuming. It was all worth it in the end as they could finally sign up for their damn hero agency. Once getting outside of the building, they were happy they finally made it. Alright, now we can sign up for our hero agency. Izuku pumped his fist in the air happily. After almost more than half an hour. Yeah, but that's okay. Come on, let's go sign up for it. They entered the building. Looking around, they saw many heroes either at their age or older, all signing up for hero work in the office. So many heroes. Izuku was left mesmerized at the sight. While Tokoyami looked ahead, let's head to the front desk. Then we'll be able to sign up for Hawk's agency. This caused him to snap back to reality. Oh yeah, I kinda was focused on everything else, my bad. They walked up to the front desk, with Tokoyami responding to him. That's alright, I guess all these heroes here would be somewhat overwhelming. Once getting to the front desk, they were greeted by a seemingly nice woman. Hello you two, how can I help you today? We're here to sign up for our agency, for Hawks. She nodded. getting out some paperwork and writing, "Your names, please." Izuku Midoriya, Fumikage Tokoyami. She perked up, seemingly recognizing those names. "Oh, you two are the kids from the sports festival. Sorry, I couldn't recognize you. That being said, I can only assume this is for internship training." They nodded. "Okay. Sign your names here, and once you're done, I'll tell you boys the location." She handed them a piece of paper, pointing where to sign. Once they finished signing, they handed it back to her. "Thank you. So for you boys to find his agency, you'll need to find a tall white building with a slope on the top and a few satellites. Go down the street and take a sharp right, and you should find it." They nodded. Before leaving the building, "Thank you, miss." They left the building, following the lady's instructions on where exactly to go. "Thankfully, we got directions this time." Agreed. Little walk later, after going exactly where they were told, they looked around. "Isn't that it over there?" Tokoyami pointed to the right. Izuku turned, and yep, it was what they were looking for. They entered the building. They walked in to see their sensei pro hero Hawks. Hawks turned around to see his two new interns. "Oh hey, you two kids must be the two kids from UA. Name's Hawks." He put on a smile. Suddenly one of the presumably sidekicks looked at them. "Yeah, we need more help with the cleanup after all." The two boys were confused. "Cleanup? But they were here to do hero work. Hawks pretty much solves everything himself around here. The rest of us essentially are just here to help clean up after a rescue." This information was being processed, and once it did not sit right with either of the boys. "Really? But we came here to train and get more experience in hero training dash," Izuku said in disbelief. Hawks chimed back in. "Oh, you will. You'll learn how to do stuff like paperwork, cleanup, and other stuff." This, however, wasn't a satisfactory answer for either of them, though they just went along with it, hoping that maybe it would all change for the better. Hosu City. The sun was beginning to set. It was soon going to be the end of the first day for their internships. Tenya was out on patrol with Manuel. They simply were admiring the city at this time. It looked beautiful. "Sorry, it's so monotonous for our patrol. I bet you were expecting a lot more action, right?" "No, it's all right. It's better this way," Ida said in almost a seemingly tired voice. "Hey, I know what's been going on and stuff with your family, and this may be hard to mention, but let me guess. You're after the hero killer, aren't you?" This put Tenya at a pause. "I kinda thought so. I mean, there wouldn't be any other reason you would come to my agency. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that you chose me out of everyone else." He went back to a stern expression to look at him, "Though you shouldn't be pursuing personal grudges. Despite our roles in society, we don't have the authority to arrest people or punish them." This caused Ida's eyes to widen as Manuel continued. "I mean, the only reason we are allowed to use our quirks is because of the regulations that are put onto them. That's why no matter how noble the reason may possibly be, a hero must not use their quirk for themselves. If a pro used their power for their own selfish desires, it would be a very serious crime." Both took a pause. Before Manuel started a little spasm of words to cheer him up. "Not to say the hero killer isn't guilty of anything. You just seem like the earnest type and I'd hate for you to focus on one goal and ignore anything else." He did chopping motions similar to the ones Ida made. "Thank you. I appreciate it." He bowed a bit. "It's all right, you just gotta understand what I'm saying, so? We good." He walked off. Ida simply followed, thinking to himself, "Manuel, I appreciate it, really I do. I also appreciate the pep talk you gave me to try and make me feel better." He paused again. "But I can't forgive the hero killer for killing Tensei." Night had nearly fallen upon Hosu City. Families were hustling and bustling out of stores, as their children wanted costumes for this year of Halloween. Over this lively city, however, stood a man with a burning conviction. The hero killer stain. He looked at the city below. "Where the hell is he? He promised he'd meet with me before nightfall. He was waiting specifically for someone." Stabbing his blade into the ground as he waited. He could only look in spite this society. Hell, this world was filled with nothing but cardboard cutouts. Fakes, liars, and hollow people they called heroes. These people didn't work for justice, he thought. They only worked because it benefited them and filled their insatiable egos. His train of thought was cut off, however. A portal showing up behind him, causing him to turn. "Took you long enough? I've been waiting for what feels like hours." The portal seemingly spoke in an ominous tone. My apologies, hero killer. Follow the portal and you shall meet with everyone accordingly. He took his blade out the floor, putting it back in its pouch as he walked through the portal closing behind him. It felt almost surreal. It was nothing but darkness until he came out the other side. It was a bar or a tavern of sorts. FA486C8 FCC7C2470B2D47E19 FC8C7B1D.jpg. There was a poster of Endeavor, clawed out on the wall that he could see as bright as day. The portal then shut behind him. He then focused on the man sitting on one of the chairs. He had teal-colored hair from what he could see and a hand on his face. In front of him was seemingly the man who brought him here. You must be the villains who attacked UA. He looked at the two. He had heard of the attack on the USJ and Sports Festival. They made quite the names for themselves throughout the 2 times they've attacked. Hero killer, it's quite a pleasure to meet you, said the teal-haired man as he spun his chair towards him. Then getting up and walking to him, I'm Tamura Shigaraki. I would like to welcome you here to the league. He took a look at the man once he finally got to see him face to face, or face to hand at least. Cut the crap. What the hell are so important about your goals that you wanted me to join in your group of misfits? I don't have all the time in the world. The man then laughed a bit. I want to kill Endeavor and destroy anything that is unsatisfactory to our world that we envision, such as the students from UA. This somewhat annoyed the hero killer. A reason such as this was stupidly childish of him. There isn't an ounce of bloodshed within a cause like this. The portal man seemingly was going to stop him. However, a man in a suit walked out of the back, putting a hand on his shoulder. He told him something, but Stain couldn't make anything of it. What do you mean? He was seemingly confused. How can you expect me to agree to join such a childish cause with an amateur man-child like you? This seemingly set him off as he lunged at him. He watched him as he dodged the attack with ease by spinning on his heel and elbowing him straight in the stomach. This caused him to recoil back. He followed up by him sweeping his legs, then pinning him on the floor by stepping on his left arm, proceeding to incapacitate his right arm by stabbing his shoulder with one dagger and putting a knife up to his neck. Kurogyri, take him away right this instant. However, he didn't move. Stain didn't remember using his quirk on him, but that made it easier for him. This society is flawed. It's filled with nothing but fakes claiming to be our saviors, while they throw their power against villains timelessly. He went for the killing blow, and he nearly did. However, the man in the tuxedo stopped his advance towards the neck immediately. That's enough, hero killer. You will not be killing my disciple on my wooden floorboard. He tried to cut his neck. He took a good look at the man. E455E1C677417B99184CE1FIA4C1D85.jpg. It was all for one, the symbol of evil. Stain immediately backed up. The symbol of evil dash? What the hell are you doing here? This earned a laugh from him. Simple. I am the leader of this organization known as the League of Villains. I was gonna let you and Tamura go on and on about your ideals, but I couldn't just let you kill him. Oh no, no, no. He laughed, turning around and shaking his head. Thank you, master. Now, Stain, how about you tell him why exactly you won't join? He wanted to be angry, but he was too afraid. Afraid that if he spoke out of turn, that would be the end of him. TCH. He sucked his teeth as he did as told. Besides the goal, we have to destroy this society. We have different goals. Though I can just see from him, despite his current view, there is a crooked creed deep within him. I can only wonder what it'll sprout. All for One nodded. Thank you for your time, Kurogyri. Return him to Hosu. The misty man, now known to him as Kurogyri, nodded, warping him back to Hosu. Hosu Hero Office. Tenya Ida had arrived back at the office after patrol. He greeted some of his colleagues. He greeted them with a smile, making his way towards his own quarters. He sat down in a chair, thinking, the hero killer Stain, I am starting to figure you out. Throughout this day he had time, lots of it, to do his own research. He wanted to avenge his older brother. He told himself this as it grew and grew. It had been festering in his heart ever since the news. During this time, he had solved the hero killer. He figured out a sort of attack pattern, kind of like a boss in a JRPG. I'm sure that he'll be here to attack 3 more pro heroes. He clenched his fist in a silent rage. I need you to appear, Stain, so I can kill you via my own hands, just like how you did to Tensei. Hero Internships Day 3, 5 p.m. On the building of Hosu, Stain, Shigaraki, and Kurogiri looked below Hosu. Hosu City, huh? It looks way more prosperous than I thought. He looked below the city, his face barely readable from his hand. Stain scoffed, looking down with him. My goal is to reform the city of Hosu by sacrificing these fake greed-driven pro-heroes. The only people who deserve this title are people who've achieved great undertakings. He jumped off, mumbling something in the distance. Shigaraki scratched his neck in annoyance. That hero killer constantly preaching about his goals. Every time he spat his goals, it annoyed him, especially since he could possibly do it. When he fought Stain back in the hideout yesterday, he could feel the overwhelming pressure of his presence. It especially annoys me that he reminds me of that kid. His neck scratching got more infuriated. You shouldn't mock Stain's preachings, Shigaraki. It has proven to increase your progression in strength and producing great results overall. This had Shigaraki give a seeming look of intrigue. However, he went back to his annoyed attitude. Me and him won't get along if that's what you're hoping. He wanted to be rid of this feeling. What better way was there to let go of anger? By taking it out on something. Kurogiri, I need you to summon the Nomu, and for extra measure, summon the... Kurogiri's eyes widened. Are you sure, Tamura? Which was received with a nod, of course. Kurogiri bowed a bit. I understand. Shigaraki grinned. Good. Back on the grounds of Hosu, Endeavor and Todoroki had arrived at Hosu City. Why did you bring us here? He looked up at his father with curiosity, his father looking back at him as they patrolled. I've been trailing a well-known criminal, the hero killer. He's been actually murdering pro-heroes for weeks at this point, yet has made a big name for himself. I have been able to trail him here. Todoroki looked at him and nodded. I see. So you wanted to bring me along to help you take him down. Which earned a nod, of course. As they walked, Endeavor explained more. I wanted to get to Hosu early with you, so we could track him down immediately if we find him. As they walked around, they saw children in Halloween costumes. It seems they had came to Shinjuku at a time of festivities. There were pumpkins scattered around the place along with ghost lanterns. It seems that we've arrived during a Halloween celebration. I wish Mom and my siblings were here. Before this internship, Todoroki and Mina had seen their mother, Rei Todoroki. She was thrown in a mental institution, but she wasn't anywhere close to insane, so they were free to visit. Endeavor sighed. I know, Shoto, maybe we can celebrate it later if you want? He smiled. However, this was met by a scoff. Just because I've acknowledged you as number one doesn't mean I am going to forget everything that happened. He sighed. You're right. I'm sorry. We have a goal to focus on anyways. Well, this is a surprise. Came to enjoy the festivities, Endeavor? Said a voice from above. Todoroki and Endeavor looked up. Midnight, why are you here? He looked somewhat confused. Same reason as you, tracking down the hero killer. She turned to see Shoto. I see. You brought young Shoto here too. This was received by a nod. Yes. I thought he could help track down the hero killer with us. She smiled, seemingly not doubting him much. All right, sure. I trust in his power, as should you, Endeavor. Hours later, the night was slowly becoming young. Children trick-or-treating had started, hustling and bustling with their parents. It all seems so nice here. Shoto couldn't help but smile. Everyone seemed so happy and such here. Endeavor smiled too. Children wore costumes like pro-heroes and such. Everything seemed to be going all right. Until, crash. A crash of glass could be heard as Todoroki and Endeavor looked on in shock. A train was just broken into by a creature. Thankfully, it had emergency stopped, as if it kept going with the creature inside it would have fell off the rails possibly. We mustn't waste time, father. He flew towards the train, summoning Chastiful at his side to assist him. Endeavor following suit as he flew up with his fire. They made it onto the train, looking around as people had already been killed, but it could have been way worse. Another Nomu dash? This Nomu was gray and had wings to boot. Todoroki was annoyed and wasted no time in believing Shigaraki was behind this, wasn't he? He flicked his fingers, stabbing straight through the Nomu's chest and pinning him against the wall. Good, Shoto. Now we must focus on keeping the Nomu contained while we get off this train. Endeavor picked up civilians and safely carried them off the train and to the ground. Boom! Father! What's going on down there? He ran towards the hole made into the train, looking out. He met a terrible sight. Fire lit the streets of Hosu, like a jack-o'-lantern lit up by a candle. Children and adults alike were running away from the flames and monsters threatening to show them the true meaning of fear on Halloween night. Out of my way! He forced the Nomu pinned against the wall out of the train, retracting Chastifol from its body. He flew towards the burning street, his father in tow. 2 civilians were being attacked as everyone else ran away. Thankfully, Midnight was still in the city. She had blasted away the other demonic Nomu is a powerful bolt of electricity. You two must leave here. It isn't safe. The 2 civilians thanked her and ran off. Midnight Sensei, what's going on? Asked a bewildered Todoroki as he stood with her back to back, apprehending the other red Nomu. I don't know. These 3 Nomu suddenly appeared. This could have been the work of the hero killer, said Endeavor, or it could have been the work of Shigaraki from the League, rebuked Todoroki as he fended off the same Nomu he had just defeated. How did he regenerate so fast? Speaking of Shigaraki, above the destruction could only smile, yes. My 3 weapons of destruction. Destroy this place and make everyone forget about Stain by the end of this night. Kurogiri looked on curious. Are you not going to join in Shigaraki? I wish I could. However, I haven't fully healed from my fight with Stain. So I'll leave it up to these 3 for now. In an alleyway, Stain could hear the carnage from the outside of an alleyway. It seems Tamura has made his move. He turned to the fresh dead corpse of Native. This fool stood no chance of beating me. He turned away, planning to take his leave. However, he sensed something coming towards him at lightning speeds. He swung his katana at the person, knocking them down immediately as well as their helmet. Wait, this seems familiar. He then looked at the glasses on the floor. He looked up at the person, seeing it was not a man, but a child at that. Know you from somewhere? How could you forget? The face of the man you killed? The child looked at him with vengeful eyes as he got up. You took my brother Ingenium from me, and I came here to take you down in his stead. How could you forget? The face of the man you killed? You took my brother Ingenium from me, and I came here to take you down in his stead. Stain looked at him, squinting at him, focused on the look in his eye. Those eyes, I can see the vengeance within them. He pointed his katana at him. Real heroes shouldn't be seeking vengeance, you know. You've been searching for exactly that closure of vengeance. I want you to remember the name Ingenium. That'll be the hero that takes you down once and for all. Tenya spouted, Stain grimacing in this. I want you to know if you leave right now, I might spare your life. I'm not against killing children if I have to. He revved up his engines as he attacked furiously, with Stain dodging to the side. Learn your place. He jumped as kicked Ida straight in the leg. This caused him to spin out and land on his face, skidding on the ground. Why you? He tried to get up, but suddenly he felt the pain in his leg hit him all at once. And my leg? What did you do to my leg? He couldn't move it, it was completely broken in one hit. His face was slammed into the concrete again by Stain's foot. Wanna know why you and your brother lost against me? He stabbed him through the shoulder. It's because you're both fake heroes. He licked his blood-stained sword. Suddenly, as if an electric static flew through his body, Tenya felt numb. Almost every part of his body besides his head was completely frozen. What is this? Stain looked down at him. This is my quirk, to dumb it down for you. It paralyzes the person whenever I lick their blood from the waist down, meaning you're nothing but bait for me now. Tenya looked horrified. Tears started rolling down his face. No. It can't end like this. I need to avenge Tensei and kill you with my own hands. His voice cracked. Stain looked down at the boy. So sad. All that bravado turned into nothing but crumpled paper on the floor. He crouched to meet Tenya eye to eye. Tell you what, kid. I'll show you a little secret of mine. Not that you'll live to tell anyone. Plus, I feel pity for you. He started to undo his mask, causing Tenya to gasp slightly. Need you to pay attention real good for me, hero. He put the mask in his hand once it was all undone, and what Tenya saw shook him to the core. Wait! It can't be, but it can be. 4B0 D6 F9 E4 B4 D7 BA1 4 D7 0 E3 F5 9 4 D6 F.jpg. Tenya could feel it, he could almost taste it. This felt similar to Midoriya back at the Heroes versus Villains exam, though it looked more like cogs in a machine rather than a general mark. But how? I thought Midoriya was the only one with that quirk. He could tell it felt exactly the same, though this one felt stronger, dwarfing what he felt back in the Hero versus Villains exercise. Stain's eyes widened a bit. Midoriya? You mean another kid like you has this type of power? He scoffed. No matter, I can question this later. He tied his mask back up. And you'll have all the time to question it in the afterlife. He raised his sword, grinning. You can also take this time to learn what being a true hero is. He dropped his sword down on him. Tenya winced shut, hoping his brother would forgive him for this stupid mistake in the afterlife. Clang. Suddenly his sword was knocked out of his hands by a spear, with his sword hitting the floor. The spear, however, spun back around and went after him, reacting accordingly as he jumped away from Ida's body. I'm glad I made it in time. It was Shoto Todoroki, arriving fashionably late. Your Endeavor's kid? You don't seem to have any quirk similar to him. I don't know either, though questioning isn't why I'm here. He floated up, almost like a god, summoning Chastiful at his side. I'm here to stop you from killing anyone else. Stain simply laughed, giving an applause. Good. A hero with noble intentions. I don't see those much nowadays. Say, what will you do, hero? This caused Todoroki to raise a brow. What do you mean? My comrades are causing quite a commotion outside of this alleyway. They've also let me in on a big secret plan they're gonna do here. So what'll it be? Possibly the lives of thousands on Halloween night, or saving all of them and sacrificing this one fake. Todoroki gave a confident smirk. I think you forget the exact connections I have, so I'll give you a miscellaneous answer. He took out his phone, showing a location. I phone a friend to help out here. Stain's face of confidence had shifted into a frown of annoyance. He called for backup before he got here, for who exactly he was calling here was a mystery. A mystery Stain didn't want to try and find out, though it also piqued his interest and potentially could make his job easier if he turned out to be stronger than the backup. I see, smart kid calling for backup. Though your concern should be. He took out another sword from his back, then creating a sword of dark energy to dual wield. Can you survive long enough for them to see you alive? I'm sure I can manage. Oh? POV. Fire, burning, monsters on Halloween night. I ran and ran. I had no courage to try and help people. I was just nothing but skin and bones. What was I gonna do to help anyone? I couldn't save anyone before. Why could I be able to now? The monsters roared. I ran with the strands of my blonde hair between my legs. I ran around the street corner to see if I could find a place to hide in, though it was futile. Boom. Ray-ia. One of them found me. It picked me up by its bird feet and lifted me into the air. Help, someone help me, Peleasa. I felt as if I was doomed. Lost. Dying a meaningless death. Though it was for the best. I was the reason of so many other people's suffering. Maybe I would do the world a better if I died. I looked down and I could see everything. The hellfire, the fighting, and the city. It was beautifully twisted. Splat. Suddenly an attack had hit the gray monster, carrying me as I fell from the sky. This was it. My death was imminent. I shut my eyes, held my tears, and nothing happened. Sir, are you all right? I opened my eyes. It was a woman with long black hair and blue eyes like the deep sea who looked at me with a calming expression. B66C8043765 ED74509F0E16F85D5E1.jpg. Why, yes. Thank you, Miss M. It's midnight, sir. She floated down, setting my down gently. You dropped these, by the way. It was my pair of yellow glasses. She took my palm and handed them to me. They seemed slightly broken, though. Thank you. Though I'm going to have to tell the eye doctor that I am here to get a new pair of glasses. She laughed a bit. You're quite funny. She flew up a bit. Mind telling me your name? I froze up a bit. I didn't think a woman like this would ever ask for a name from someone so weak and feeble looking like myself. Oh, it's Toshinori Yagi. She smiled. Well, Toshi, I will see you after this fighting is over, possibly. She flew off back into the fight. I could only feel a bit envious that she had so much confidence in herself and such control of herself. Unlike me. Okay, Toshi, let's get out of here. I ran off, running to possible safety until stomp, stomp, stomp. I could hear loud stomps from a distance, almost as if earthquakes were being formed on command at this very moment. I could only look behind me in terror at the creature that had arrived. Kyushu, Japan. The trio of Izuku, Tokoyami, and Hawks were on a mission. Well, more like it was Hawks on a mission. Izuku and Tokoyami just played cleanup crew. This is getting infuriating, Tokoyami said, his face showing visible annoyance. I feel ya, bud, responded Izuku, who felt the same way as his feathery friend. Hawks flew down. You know, if you two weren't reliant on the ground, maybe you could keep up. He put his hands behind his head, walking towards them. Before a retort could be said, Izuku suddenly received a notification on his phone. He took it out to see it was from Todoroki. He opened the notification and it was a location and a message. Todoroki, we need backup on the attack in Hosu City. I found the hero killer. Izuku's eyes widened. As he turned to his mentor, Hawks Sensei, we need to get to Hosu now. It's under attack and they found the hero killer. Hawks looked somewhat stunned. The hero killer? He immediately remembered the reputation of the hero killer. The League of Villains could also be tied into this attack. All right, recruits. Time for a real mission. He stretched his arms. We gotta go hunting for that hero killer. Right, of course. Hosu City alleyway. Todoroki spun Chastifol around next to him, spinning it around. Just give up now and you won't get hurt. The man laughed in response. That's supposed to scare me? Stain raised his katanas, which blades were lit aflame. I don't think you understand. I don't run from heroes. Heroes run from me. Really? Let's change that then. He threw Chastifol at Stain. He jumped off the ground and stuck onto the wall using his sword. He redirected Chastifol towards him, which he responded by throwing a dagger at it and sending it off course. TCH. He went to motion his hand to attack Stain again. However, before he could, Stain shot a wave of fire from his free hand. Take this! Todoroki dropped down as to avoid the attack, looking around. Stain had seemingly disappeared with only his sword left on the wall. Todoroki! Behind you! Todoroki turned around, trying to instinctively move. However, he reacted too slow, receiving a slash across his torso. HRK dash! He backed up, a hand on his torso as the wound bled. Stain went to lick the blood. It's over now. Suddenly, a wave of sharp vines charged at the man. He didn't get time to lick the sword as he had to back up. Your quirk only activates when you lick blood, right? He snapped his fingers as the vines turned into little daggers. Then I won't give you a chance to lick that sword. Stain looked on in shock. There was so many to the point they filled the whole alleyway. Take this! The daggers all charged at him, as Stain held up his sword to guard and deflect as many attacks as he could. Damn brat dash! He tried to take as little damage as possible, but it was hard due to the small alleyway and the amount of daggers there were. Any of them that he reflected just spun around him and made more opportunities to get hit. I'll give you this. Nobody's had to push me this far. He grinned, blood dripping from all the cuts. I'll make this quick. Suddenly, in a quick burst of speed, he knocked away all the daggers, simply disappearing from sight. What dash? Where did? He his head around, only to receive a slash to the back. Awk! He stumbled trying to stand as all his daggers hit the floor. He tried to form it into a different form of Chastifol, though he was simply forced onto the ground by Stain's quirk. Now that's over with. He glanced back at Todoroki, showing the marking had grown spratzically, his mask no longer being enough to cover it. He walked over to Ida, as he'd been down the longest. I want you to learn, kid. He raised his sword. You should never mess with an adult, or else things like this will happen to you. He stabbed into Ida's arm, completely breaking through his protective hero suit, shattering it. Ayawa dash! He yelled out in pain. He couldn't even clutch his arm. He was still under Stain's quirk after all, then having the other one being stabbed into as he screamed again. I'm not one for torture, but you kids must learn the hard way. Not to mess with me. He raised his sword above Ida's chest, going for the kill. Stup! Meanwhile, in the streets of Hosu, they stepped off the train, looking around at the destruction around them as a pumpkin rolled up next to them. This is what's been happening, huh? Hawks looked on, surprised. Come on, kids, let's go. Right, said the two boys in unison as they went off with the pro hero. They just ran in frustration and such. Eventually, they made it to the main attack site. As they looked on and saw ahead what was going on. What the hell? Dash? Tokoyami looked up, seeing the giant creature currently destroying buildings and the street in the wake of its steps. Helicopters flew around trying to report what was happening. This just in Dash. A giant white monster is attacking the city of Hosu. D60CC9 DCBF6A6804 FC9 9F626 DD0E43F5.jpg. The monster looked at the helicopter, yelling as it swiped at it aggressively. Thankfully, the helicopter avoided the strike. WH dash. We gotta get out of here. Oi, you two. Go help the others with the hero killer. I'll stay here with the other pros to take this thing down. Hawks flew off towards the creature. Izuku and Tokoyami looked at each other, nodding before Izuku led the way to the hero killer's location. Deep in an alleyway. What's happened? How did they find the hero killer anyways dash? Tokoyami asked, thinking they may have been ambushed somehow. Ida. Izuku grimaced, thinking of the worst possible scenario. Once they made it, their worst fears had been realized. HM? Look who's came to join the fight like lamb to the slaughter. He stood over Ida, who was seemingly lifeless. Todoroki was also on the ground, though he was still conscious. There you two are. Dash. The dual-haired fairy responded before slipping into unconsciousness. Neither of the boys could believe what they were seeing, especially Tokoyami, who had seen Todoroki fight against Midoriya back at the festival. Tokoyami, get Ida. I'll fight the hero killer. He readied his sword, scowling as he powered up. Now I saw what that speed brat was talking about. The killer could feel it. He and Izuku were indeed one in the same. Get out of my way or die dash. He dashed off Ida's body, swinging his katana as it was blocked by Izuku's own sword. Tokoyami go dash. The bird boy simply did as told, going over to Ida's body to see if he was possibly alright and still alive. Izuku acting as a distraction for Tokoyami to get Shoto and Ida out of here as he fought Stain. Stain tried to throw a kunai from his pocket, though this led to him being knocked back by Izuku's sword as he went on the offense. Stop focusing on them and focus on your opponent, hero killer. Stain scowled in response, though he did admit. Izuku piqued his interest mostly due to the fact they were both demons. Don't order me around, kid. He knocked Izuku back, the boy when going back on the attack, going for a ferocious slash. He sidestepped to the right, then roundhouse kicking him across the face. Izuku spun around midair, though he gained back his footing midair, sliding back as he stopped next to Tokoyami and Ida. Stain looked around, turning his head back and seeing Todoroki's body. He thought of going for the kill, however Izuku would definitely be fast enough to stop him from doing so. Tokoyami was a liability in this fight. He could take him out whenever, but Izuku was the bigger issue he needed to watch out for and get a clear opening on. Tokoyami, how's Ida doing dash? Tokoyami sweated as he looked at Midoriya. He isn't breathing. Izuku's eyes widened in shock. An opening. Stain acted quick, shooting a fire attack from his sword at the ground to blind the two using smoke. Where'd he? Stain appeared from above, Izuku putting his sword up to block the incoming attack. However, he just landed on the ground, thrusting his blade forward. Predictable. He stabbed through Izuku's abdomen. Hawk dash. He coughed up blood as it splattered on Stain's face, followed by a kick to the chest. Tokoyami tried to use the darkness in the alleyway to take advantage of a powered-up dark shadow, however, he couldn't fight back. Stain was simply too strong and powerful, simply putting him on the back burner as he was stalled. Izuku tried to get up, seeing Tokoyami would die if he didn't go and help him. Tokoyami? Stain licked his lips, paralyzing Izuku as he fell to the floor unable to move. This is backup. Please. I could think of way better than you children. He kept beating on Dark Shadow as Tokoyami retorted, how could you say this after killing a child? Because he was a fake hero, who was out for revenge rather than to help people. Just like all the others who wanted to be selfish rather than wanting to help people. I'll admit you two are the first two real heroes I met. It's such a shame you'll have to die for getting in my way. He broke through Dark Shadow as it retreated back into Tokoyami. Now you're all going to die like that kid and his no-good brother Dash. He went to swing his sword one last time to kill Tokoyami. Tokoyami's eyes widened as Stain raised the sword. "Farewell, bird boy." He swung his sword down at him. Tokoyami closed his eyes as to brace for his death. "Mother, father, I'm sorry I have failed you as your son. I wanted to become a hero to help people as the man in the shadows, but it seems like I am going to permanently be one with the shadows." He grimaced, though for some reason. It got oddly silent. He thought he was dead and opened his eyes, expecting to see a holy white gate and a man waiting to let him in. Seemingly, though, fate had other plans. Midoriya, Izuku was up and walking, stopping Stain's attack with his arm. "How dash? How are you moving? Not even typo bloods get up this quickly, dash. Take that back." He looked confused. Then that confusion turned into shock. 0E9B5 BAF B7 172A00 C9860 C6946 CC3.jpg. Izuku has once again evolved and changed. He scowled and yelled again. "Take back what you said about Ida? Take back what you said about Ida?" Scowled the boy, starting to slowly crush the hero killer's arm. Stain squinted in pain. However, this didn't deter him. Using a kunai to slash at the boy, he was cut across the face. Still with the same scowled expression. RRAH. He threw Stain away from him and Tokoyami. Stain gained back control in the air, landing on his feet and standing up. "Now this is something I didn't expect, and for the record, it really wasn't." He never seen someone simply brute force their way through his blood curdle, though he could only expect if the boy could do this. Certainly that man in the suit he met at the league would have as well. However, just because he was standing doesn't mean he was any slower. Stain watched as he tried to force his body to move with great struggle, each slow step making small cracks in the ground. "Come on, move, damn it." This calmed Stain's nerves. Sure, the boy was possibly stronger than him. That strength meant nothing if he couldn't actually make it towards him. Impressive. I never seen someone overpower my blood curdle before. I guess that means anyone physically stronger than me doesn't get fully paralyzed, but rather slowed and weighed down to the heaviest degree. Stain enlit his katana with the burning oinks flames of the demon clan. "Though it means nothing if you can't reach me." He swung at the air, a flame slash flying towards Izuku and hitting him directly. T-Sech dash. He was forcefully backed up. Lifting his sword by itself felt as if the world was going to force him on his knees. He couldn't even use full counter to knock it back at him. However, he quickly noticed his head still remained unaffected from these effects. "My head can still move freely dash. That's all I need to stall for time to get help. I could have won alone in a normal circumstance. But not like this." Stain kept attacking him, grinning ear to ear. He was furiously attacking as it's not like Izuku could dodge, and even if Tokoyami interfered, it's not like he would be able to do anything. Tokoyami only could watch in horror as his coworker and friend was being chipped away. He had just barely got his arms up to block, though they were burnt from all the fiery attacks he's been blocking. Surprisingly still usable. "I just need to find an opening to attack." He grit his teeth, fire being released from the side of his mouth. Izuku had to make himself look helpless, and he needed to give his arms time to heal so he wouldn't damage them further. His arms drooped down as he inhaled and exhaled from his teeth. Stain, seeing this, fell for the bait entirely. He ran up, jumping to grab his katana from the building it was stuck in. As he aimed both his katanas to gouge out his eyes. "It's over, hero. There dash." He grit his teeth as fire came from the sides of his mouth, and before he released a giant fire blast up at him, almost like a dragon in fantasies. "Shit dash?" Stain was engulfed completely by the attack, as it burned him greatly like a dragon's breath, burning the alleyway from a side effect of how hot the flames were. The attack dissipated and Izuku could suddenly move freely again. "Midoriya, are you alright?" asked Tokoyami, sweat going down his face. "Yeah, I can move freely now." He started winding his arms as he had to stretch a bit after that whole ordeal. "What happened to the hero killer?" "I don't know. I can only assume since I'm fine now that he's dead, right?" They both turned to the burning alleyway. Mix of shock and anger on Izuku's face. Stain was still alive somehow. Stain walked through the fire and flames, burnt and bloodied. "You're a cunning brat, aren't you? Catching me off guard with that fire breathe." He scowled. The green demon stared at Stain, before gaining a stoic response to him. "No, I'm kinda glad you're alive." Stain grinned, raising an eyebrow. "Why's that, hero?" "Because now, I get to kill you with my bare hands." He kept the stoic expression, raising his sword to fight. "Kill him, Dash?" "Midoriya, we're heroes, we don't." "Tokoyami, this isn't the time for this. Go help Todoroki get medical attention, he's still alive." He yelled at his bird acquaintance. But Dash. He was hesitant, not only because he didn't want his friend to fight alone, but because he was now concerned that Izuku would murder Stain, and the possible consequences if he did. "Go now!" He clenched his fist as running past Stain, the latter in which let him run off and help his friend. "So you wanted to kill me by yourself, didn't you? To avenge that idiotic friend of yours." He got into a battle stance, his swords making an X shape. "Not only him, I need to avenge every other hero you killed." He stood in a battle stance, one he learned from Meliodas. BB195C6E787640682F18C0F86A9CB3B.JPG. "Then come at me, boy, or I'll wipe you off like the Stain you are. I'll kill you, hero killer." They dashed at each other, streaks of fire being left in their wake. Clashing swords, sparks emitting off their blades. "Why are you doing this? You killed so many heroes just for what?" Izuku yelled in confusion mixed with anger. Stain scoffed. "Because this society is filled with nothing but fakes, Dash." He knocked Izuku back, somewhat surprising the boy. "You may have more strength, boy, but I have conviction and I will carry out my mission." He charged at him, trying to do a scissor movement and cut his head off. He ducked under it, punching Stain in his stomach. "I got conviction too." Stain coughed up blood as the wind was knocked out of him. "The conviction to make sure you kill nobody else?" He dragged his fist forward, basically throwing the man across the alleyway. The man was sent flying and bouncing off the floor, eventually catching himself as he blocked another sword strike from Izuku. He took a step back. Suddenly he saw his swords were cracking. What, Dash? Rarea! He swung his sword down, breaking both of Stain's blades. He was going for a fatal blow until, crack, his sword had broken as well, the metal dropping on the floor. As he looked somewhat shocked, he had put more power than his sword could handle, causing it to break. Stain went to take his opportunity to strike back. Izuku proceeded to block. He was stabbed. As it turned out, Stain used a kunai to stab his hand. He took out the kunai, going to lick it, the latter kicking his arm up, the kunai flying out of his hand. He went to grab it. However, the boy grabbed him by the collar as he zoomed out the alleyway with magnificent speed. "Eyes on me, hero killer." Hosu City Street. The situation was slowly getting worse. They couldn't kill or contain the Albian no matter how hard they tried. Midnight could try and perfect cube it, but it would take too much energy and it would just dissipate once she ran out of magic. Though they had put some lasting damage onto the thing, shooting a hole through its side. However, that seemed to have pissed off the giant creature more than anything. The worst had yet to come, however, as it inhaled, charging up a massive fire attack from its mouth. "Everyone get behind me!" Midnight yelled as the creature vomited out fiery hot magma from its bowels. She defended them, however, with an ice wall and was able to nullify the attack. The ice started to melt as she only looked up in urgency. "This is getting annoying. We need something to fully take this thing down. I'm running out of options." The monster proceeded to yell as it punched through a building, completely flattening it into the ground. "We need to find a way to make some fatal damage. Todoroki is too weakened and lost too much blood to help here, and Midoriya is..." "Wait, where is..." Crash. She turned to see what was currently going on. Izuku was holding Stain by the collar as Stain gripped his arm in anger, trying to escape the boy's grasp. "Hero killer. Izuku, Midoriya. Izuku." Izuku turned as he saw Midnight in complete shock. "Midnight Sensei Dash? Izuku? Midnight Sensei?" Suddenly the boy was cut off as Stain knocked him across the face, causing him to stumble back. "Focus on killing me, boy." The killer dashed at him, leaving a streak of fire in his wake. They clashed swords, triggering the boy. "I'll kill you all right," sending shockwaves throughout the street. They dashed around the city with explosions being left in their wake, the fire getting exceedingly stronger. Midnight looked at the fight and could see the escalation of this fight. The fires worsened as the Oink's flames simply made the situation worse. if it didn't look like hell before. Surely they must have been in purgatory. Midoriya, stop. You're only making the fires worse. She used water spells to disperse the flames, trying to blow them out. However, the boy wouldn't listen. The Albian, for some apparent reason, seemed to have gotten more agitated. But why? It started to become more wild and violent, body slamming into buildings and fisting the street. Midoriya. Once he heard Melioda's voice, he backed up, gaining distance from Stain, now on the defensive. What is it? He had to defend as Stain swiped his sword at him aggressively. I know you're not in the best state of mind right now, but dash. He grit his teeth, ducking under Stain's blade. Stain grabbing his head and kneeing his nose. Give it up, fake hero. Over my dead body? He caught the knee, stabbing into it with his sword. Ugh, dash? You brat. He kicked him off using his free leg as he pulled the sword out. Blood spewing from his knee as he started to shake. Damn. My leg feels like it's on the verge of collapsing. Izuku watched, not capitalizing on it surprisingly. Izuku and Albian is attack the city. You gotta kill it. Nobody else has the firepower to do so. Izuku came to a realization, looking up to his side. He could see it, the giant monster towering over the city, crushing everything under its feet or its massive weight. Helicopters were filming the atrocities, distracting the beast. Unfortunately, they didn't have Mount Lady to help distract it without risking civilian lives. No, get away from it. He tried to run towards it, though Stain slashed at him, cutting his cheek. Hey, dash, don't run now. He grinned, a maniacal look on his face. Didn't you claim you would kill me? He grit his teeth, backing up and spinning his sword a bit. I will, then do ITTT. They clashed, but suddenly their swords cracked before completely breaking into shards of metal on the floor. Though they didn't care. They swung at each other one last time. This would decide this fight. Stain lifted up his elbow and brings it down, trying to knock the boy out. However, Izuku caught the elbow with one hand. I told you. He growled as he looked up at him with pure rage. I'll kill you. He uppercutted Stain's jaw, launching him up, spinning out. How? How could I lose? To a brat like him? He landed on the floor, out for the time being. He quickly inhaled and exhaled, though before he could even think about anything else. A roar could be heard throughout the street. Shit! The Albian. It suddenly started to lean over like it was planning to fall. He turned to run, though he saw many people on the street, still running for their lives or trying to help loved ones. Hey, dash. I gotta stop it from killing everyone here. It fell atop of them, creating a cloud of smoke, covering the area. No! Midnight yelled. She had completely believed the boy and everyone else had been crushed under that giant thing like the buildings. NNNGGH? The hand hadn't reached the floor. Izuku was holding it up with a clear struggle. I won't let anyone here die, dash. The Albian roared as it tried to further force its hand down on the population of Hosu. He grit his teeth as he looked up at the hand. I told you. I won't let anyone else die. He roared out, throwing the hand back up. The beast roared in confused, stumbling back a bit before regaining his footing. He panted heavily as he fell back and sat on the floor, panting heavily as he looked up at the monster. Shit, I don't got any more left in me. He looked up at what seemed to be certain doom as the monster simply turned his hand into a fist this time, trying to crush him a second time. Damn it, dash. He put his hands up, getting ready to defend everyone again. However, it was shot by an ice blast to the side of the face. It groaned out in pain as part of its face was now frozen. Midoriya, the weakness is the core in its chest. You gotta aim for that. Eyes widened as he ran forward, charging towards it. The core in its chest, the Albian yelled out in fury as it slammed his other hand into the ground, creating much smoke and debris. It doesn't matter, dash. As long as I can get to the core and destroy it, we can win, dash. He ran up its arm, shooting a blast of fire at its chest. This did little to nothing to affect it as his face scrunched up. He knew it, he was too weak from his fight with Stain. Maybe if he had more strength, he could have been able to beat this thing by now, though that could be overestimating his own abilities. The beast turned to him and roared in his face, throwing him off his arm. Shit, dash? He fell on a rooftop, looking up at it in horror. Hawks flew in, looking at Izuku. Got any tips on how to beat this thing, kid? Hawks! He looked at him, before calming down to explain, "The weakness lies in his chest. If we potentially pierce it, we could kill it." Hawks looked kinda surprised when the boy proposed on killing it, though he understood wanting to eliminate this threat by any means. "As much as I would like to say I can handle it by myself, I doubt it. If Midnight can't, then I doubt I can do anything but stall." He nodded. "Right. I need to gather myself, so I say, H." The beast suddenly swiped at the building they stood. Hawks was able to escape due to his capability of flight. Izuku, however, wasn't so lucky as he was smacked through a line of buildings. "Kid!" Hawks was suddenly grabbed as he was being crushed by the monster's grip. Midnight acted quickly by weaving hand signs and shooting a small red blast. It made contact, and at first it didn't feel it. However, it had a second stage, causing it to roar in pain as it dropped Hawks. "Thanks, Knight. Would have been a goner without ya," she panted. "Don't mention it. Though I am almost entirely spent. I need you to give Izuku something that'll allow a guaranteed victory." He didn't seem fully comfortable on relying on a high schooler to be their win-con. But Midnight was smart, so she must know what she's doing, all right? "Hand it over to me." As they conversed, the monster had fully shifted its attention to Izuku, who had been knocked away prior. "Hawks, go now, right?" He nodded, flying off. Meanwhile, with Izuku in North Hosu, he panted, blood rushing from his head as he lifted off a large piece of debris. People screaming as they saw Izuku in his currently beat-up state. "TCH, I am gonna kill that thing. I need to protect everyone." "Dash," he growled. Despite his current state, he was still focused on saving as much people as he could. A yellow-haired man walked up to him, worried for him. "K kid, are you alright, Dash?" As concerned as everyone else was, as some stared with some still running. "Yeah, I'm fine. You people need to get out of here though. It's too dangerous." But Dash." Suddenly a roar echoed, Izuku turning his head to the side as the monster plowed through buildings with just his walk alone, roaring as it grew cannons on its face. "Damn it. Get out of here now." The monster roared as it charged its cannons. "Kid, you have to get out of here too, or else you'll die." The yellow-haired man continued, trying to grab his arm. He grit his teeth, shaking him off. "Now is not the time. Your lives are more important now, leave." However, it was too late for that. The Albian aimed down towards the people planning to incinerate everyone. "No!" He charged his own attack, planning to clash with it to possibly protect everyone he could and give them time to escape. It shot its cannons towards them, roaring out, "Hiya!" Izuku fired back, trying to hold it back for as long as he could. "NGGHH. Get out and live." The man only stared in horror as he only watched as the young boy risked his life for an older man than him. "Oh?" POV. He stood behind the boy, who was willingly throwing his life away for him, knowing he wouldn't live. He looked in horror, but thought with sorrow, "This isn't fair. This child, this young boy, who has so much more time to live, was willingly risking his life to save people who have already lived enough compared to him. A child as young as he shouldn't have to be fighting for a man like him. This wasn't the job for a child. No, this was a job for a man. A man. With pride." Izuku POV. He eventually couldn't keep up, his blast being overpowered slowly. "It's no use, Dash. I can't win." He closed his eyes, tears escaping. "I'm sorry, Meliodas. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry, everyone, that I wasn't enough." His tears flew behind him as he gritted his teeth. "Kid, there's nothing to fear." "But it's all right. You're getting a second chance now." He opened his eyes. Suddenly, a yellow-haired man stood before him, blocking the entire attack from the Albian with one hand. Wait. Dash?" He looked up at his back, as a tattoo of a lion was on his back. D1D961001465 add 9E51FA437301570.jpg. Realization suddenly hit the boy right in the face. The lion's sin of pride. Sin of pride, HM. That's what that is? I thought it was just some overgrown birthmark. The man gave a hearty laugh. "Then allow me to introduce myself." He crushed his hand as the attack dispersed. The Albian looked on in confusion. Its big attack had been stopped by a seeming way of a hand. "I am the one who will put an end to this, the one above all. My name He raised his head to look up at the beast. 14716 BC 1B7929D4 E6 B284778 EC887D.jpg. Is Toshinori Yagi? Toshinori stood there, a grin on his face. The Albian seemed to hesitate for some reason, as if he could feel his presence, which could scare a lion with a simple stare. Thank you for breaking me out of my shell, young man. Now allow me to finish this for you. His booming confidence could be heard from the way he stood, the way he talked. This isn't good. My body isn't used to this dash. I haven't used this power in so long, and without the sun I feel as if my muscles are ready to burst. Are you sure you can win? We have to think about avoiding any more damages to the things around us. He slowly regenerated his wounds, being able to regain his footing. That'll be all right. His frame is so big it'll be hard to miss anything else. He laughed. The Albian roared in rage, pointing its cannons down at the two as the holes lit with fire. Tisk, TSK, TSK. He quickly jumped up to the thing to see it face to face. Hasn't anyone taught you any manners? He raised his voice and delivered a hard smack to the left side of Albian's face, tumbling across the road, knocking out buildings from its mass. Toshinori landed on the ground, looking on at the destruction that it left in its wake with confidence. Suddenly, though, blood spewed out of his arm as he coughed a bit. TCH. It seems I am only good for one more attack. The Albian slowly got up, roaring as it started throwing a temper tantrum as it rapidly attacked everything with its giant fist. Watch out! Toshinori raised his right hand, raising a finger as a minuscule sphere emitted from his finger. If I have one more attack in me, I better make good use of it. The sphere got bigger, emitting a flaming hot light similar to the sun at the crack of dawn. Let's see if you can possibly survive an attack like this. 1A9B4A007E14CCFC50F2928F6326F9.jpg. Cruel sun. He swung his finger forward, the sun charging at the giant creature. It crisped most that it touched before slamming into the massive creature, causing it to roar out in pain as the sun forced it to travel back even further, all before setting off like a fiery bomb that burned everything around it and turned into ash. Izuku walked out to see all the destruction he had created. Hey, you did it! You killed the Albian! He grinned. The Albian was seemingly defeated and killed, the smoke covering the Albian. As much as I appreciate it, I don't think this battle is over. Giant sounds could be heard as the Albian stood up from the rubble, now with a new giant and burnt hole in its stomach. It's still alive? It raised its fist in fury as it went to slam down on the two of them. Crap dash! The boy grabbed Toshinori by the arm and jumped away, hoping to avoid it. The Albian's fist made contact with the ground, causing a shockwave that sent the two spinning out. SCK dash! They landed face first on the street, Izuku turning back and getting up ready to fight. Come on, Toshinori. We can beat this thing together. He turned to him, however his heart sank when he saw he was still on the ground, now back to his skinnier and smaller self. He must have used up all his strength in that last attack, cause the sun isn't out dash? He put Toshi on his back, getting in a battle stance. Looks like I'm on my own again dash. Midoriya. A voice called out as Izuku looked up. Hawks! The man held out a sword. However, it wasn't just any sword. His eyes widened as he was able to tell what it was. Sacred treasure. Lost vein. CB85E465B9 1F13D0F548B368D921 Keb0.jpg. How did he even get it? Meliodas questioned before Izuku came to the quick conclusion. Midnight must have given it to him dash. Take this dash. He threw the sword down as it spun midair, ingraining itself into the concrete. It's so close. I just need to get to it? He turned as Toshinori was still knocked unconscious and needed to be evacuated immediately. I can't leave him here. The Albian once again raised its foot to stomp on them like bugs. TCH dash? He grabbed all might and jumped away to dodge the attack. Kid! Dust once again enveloped the street as Izuku covered his eyes to not get blinded. Damn it, dash! He felt his hand out to hopefully grab Lost Vein. It's gotta be in the smoke somewhere? He grabbed something, opening his eyes to see it was a simple sharp rock. That's not what I need. Throwing it away. If he wanted any chance at getting it, He had to ensure All Might's safety. Turning his head to the air hawks, he spun around and threw the skinny man towards him. Take him to safety. Thankfully, he caught him, getting sent back a bit due to the force. I can't just leave you here. Yes, you can. Now get out of here, he grimaced, flying off with Toshinori. Hope you know what you're doing, kid. The boy sighed of relief as he turned back to the Albion and then looked at Lostvein. I can kill it as long as I get Lostvein. No matter what it takes. He got in a sprint stance, inhaling as he looked at the Albion, which simply stared back. He took a deep breath before sprinting across the street as fast as he could as the cannons grew from the Albion's face once again. Shooting down at him, he narrowly dodged the first one, nearly tripping before getting it together. I can't fold here. Not when I'm so close. It continued to shoot rapidly down at him, making holes in the street from each shot, but Izuku noticed something. The Albion kept shooting in a pattern. Right, middle, left. I have to do this. I gotta beat this thing. He started to speak out loud as his body simply adapted to the pattern. Right. He dodged to the left, ending up in the middle. Middle. He dodged to the left, ending up to the right. Left. He dodged back to the middle. Right. Middle. Left. The same pattern was repeated as he advanced closer, his body naturally adapting to the pattern of the mindless beast. I gotta do this. He made it to Lostvein, wasting no time in grabbing it from the ground, the Albion charging an attack that would kill him if he was too slow. For everyone. For Native. And for Ida. He roared, taking the sword out of the stone. Rei-ia. The beast roared as it unleashed the last fiery cannon at the boy, seemingly disintegrating the boy to nothing. No, kid? The Birdman called out in despair, thinking the child had just been disintegrated. The Albion started to smile, as it had just eliminated a big threat to its well-being. Sacred treasure, Lostvein. Sacred treasure, Lostvein. 13007 BDC8 F433270 D6892 DD3538CC00C.JPG. From the fire and flames of the Albion's cannons, the green-haired boy had emerged completely unscathed. Kid, you're all right, Hawks exclaimed, surprised he had gotten away from such an attack unharmed. He landed on the building, taking a sigh of relief. Geez, that was a close one. The boy took a look at the sword he now held. He could feel it, his powers now increasing from seemingly just wielding it. Looks like Midnight was taking good care of Lostvein for us. Definitely gotta thank her later. Yeah, this felt so strange but so familiar at the same time. That probably had to do with Meliodas being the past wielder of Lostvein and him being the new one. I feel so much more powerful. I think I can beat it even like this. He looked at the Albion, who was still going on a rampage. It must have not seen me due to how small I am compared to it. He put his free hand on his chin. He couldn't exactly get a correct gauge on his own power, especially since this wasn't even his max. He was relatively fatigued from all the fighting. Even then, he felt so much stronger now, even to when he was fatigued fighting the Albion beforehand. All I need is his attention. He suddenly gained an idea. Hey, Pillberry Doughboy's brother. I'm still here, he yelled out as loud as he could, trying to get its attention. However, this call was deaf on ears, as the Albion couldn't hear him. Rei-ia. It suddenly started to charge up another attack with its cannons as it went to destroy more of the city. TCH. He enchanted his sword in the Oink's flames as per usual, gritting his teeth. Enchant. Hellblaze. This attack was simply meant to get its attention. However, it was more powerful than he had anticipated, creating a massive explosion. NGH. He shielded himself with his arm as the giant flames engulfed the area, as he got a clearer look at it. B9C8FA204E1853031731731C02B7351FA7A.JPG. So much power. He was surprised at his own bolstered power. Watch it, Izuku. We can't damage any civilians. A hand eventually came out of the smoke, clearly going for Izuku with a slap as he just looked towards the hand, dragging itself across the streets and colliding with buildings. 1,000 divine cuts. He sliced the Albion's hand and the buildings it had picked up along the way into 1,000s of tiny pieces, almost like it was some sort of animal being cut by a knife to be served to the people. The smoke cleared to show the Albian had been massively damaged. It had pretty much lost half its face as it roared out in pain, now having also lost its hand to the boy. "All right, we got it on the ropes. Let's just finish him off, Izuku." "Izuku?" The boy just silently looked over the city. The Oink's flames from his initial attack had increased the destruction tenfold. This no longer felt like a city. It was a hellscape. BA70EE1374EB9CH7CF8CF427FDA74F.jpg. "Izuku, what's up?" He snapped out of it, putting a hand on his head. "Sorry, I'm just trying to think of what to do." The boy was at a loss. He didn't know how to finish this thing off. Sure, he could obviously obliterate it and kill it, but from what little glimpse he's seen of his newly acquired power is that he lacked restraint. If he wasn't careful, he would destroy more than he needed to. Hell, if he wasn't careful, he could kill innocent civilians with his power. His hands were tied. Hosu City, West. Hawks flew around more with Toshinori on his back, sweating from the intense temperature from the fires in the city. Phew, is this how all those chicken feel when they're being deep fried? I might not ever pick up another one again after this one, he joked, wiping the sweat off his brow. Hawks, huh? Are the flames finally getting to me or something? He thought he was hallucinating due to the intense heat. Down here, he looked down and found that it was Tokoyami. Not just him either, the other heroes were there, seemingly evacuating others and medics treating the wounded. He landed, looking around and resting Toshinori to a stretcher as medics started tending to him as well. These guys are working overtime. I could personally never be a doctor, especially after seeing all this. He rubbed the back of his head, Tokoyami just looking at him in slight annoyance. That's the first thing you say once you make it here. A loud crash could be heard as they turned their heads up north. The battle between the Albian and what could only be assumed Midoriya raged on. However, despite the Albian's major injuries, Midoriya hadn't finished it off yet for some peculiar reason. They're still going. Why hasn't he finished it off? Tokoyami was confused, not understanding the reason behind Midoriya's decision to drag this on. However, Hawks thought of a clever reason on why. It was clear to him that Midoriya didn't want to destroy more than he needed to, which is why he was dragging this fight out to find a way to kill it with destroying as little as possible. Let him keep going dash. He can do this. Todoroki? The bird boys noticed Todoroki standing with bandages wrapped around his torso, which Stain had cut. We need to trust him. He can do this, I know he can. He looked at Hawks in desperation as he was the only person capable of flying at the moment. We just need to trust in him, like we do to our heroes. All he needs is one shot. Hawks looked at him for a second before nodding. All right, hope you're right, kid. Tokoyami was as nervous as Hawks was but joined in on the nod. Midoriya is the strongest person I ever seen. If anyone can do this, it's him. Back with Izuku versus the Albian. The fight was being dragged out more. As the Albian destroyed more things, Izuku began to panic. If he didn't end this now, more things would be destroyed. But if he did, it would also cause harm to everything around him. Come on, Izuku. Think. It was so damn annoying. He shouldn't be afraid to use his own power, but here he is cowering at the thought of hurting innocent people again. Boom. What was the point of this power-up if he's too afraid to even use his own power to its fullest? He's such a hypocrite. He told Todoroki to use his full power, but he can't do that. He's such a failure of a kid. He snapped out of his train of thoughts and doubts as out of instinct, he slashed the Albian's other hand off. It roared out in pain as it took steps back. The boy took a few deep breaths as he heard the blonde short man talk to him. Listen, kid. I know you're worried about hurting and destroying the things around you. Your problem is you don't take risk. You play too safe, which causes you to overthink. The boy inhaled and exhaled as he slowly calmed himself and regained composure. But if I don't play safe, then dash. I know you're afraid to hurt people around you, Izuku. You've been torn up about it since the sports festival, but you can't let past transgressions define you as a person. This is the here and now, and right now, you gotta destroy that thing so it doesn't hurt or destroy anything else. The boy inhaled deeply as he stood tall and looked at the Albian again, confidence in his eyes. Okay, put your heart at ease. Target your wrath towards this monster and put it down. For good. He inhaled one more time, exhaling from his mouth. Thank you. Meliodas. He gained a serious expression as he got into a battle stance. Leave the rest of this to me. The Albian roared in rage from Izuku's newfound confidence and resolve as it once again shot at him. However, he gently sliced the air as a golden line was born from the sliced air. Full counter. The beam suddenly stopped and then blasted back at the beast. However, it only barely dodged it as the blast went up into the sky. Not without fatal injuries, however, as the side of its head was destroyed. The boy grinned as he jumped off the building. You like that, you disgusting monster? Landing on the floor as he started running towards it, going through the smoke and flames. The Albian roared in rage, bringing its foot down upon him as the boy caught it but struggled. Geez, you're heavy. The monster grinned as he brought it down further as his foot hit the ground, seemingly killing the boy. It was enchant. Hellblaze. He was smacked to the side by another Hellblaze by Izuku. But that was impossible, he should have been crushed, creating a clone with the smoke as a decoy. Nice thinking, kid. He grinned as he jumped up and UPPRCUT'd the beast's humongous stomach, sending it up to the sky. The boy jumped after it, igniting fire under his feet so he can catch up to the monster's upward velocity as he charged a fireball in his hand. I won't allow you to terrorize anyone else. I am going to end this here and now. He needed to turn his entire body to ash, as he didn't want to harm the city with this giant thing's body hitting the pavement. He ignited his sword as well as he made an X shape with his arms, his sword-wielding arm over his other. This was it. He couldn't let this thing harm or kill anyone else. I need to do this, after all. He clenched his fist and tightened the grip on his sword. What kind of hero would I be if I let you harm anyone else? The monster groaned as it started to fall, no longer going upwards. They were nearly above the clouds at this rate. He rammed right up against the monster, slowly ripping through it before coming out the other side. 7 Eden 909 F4 1453716 CC4 35C6 1E808063.jpg. Divine Cross 58868119 EB3 F8 D4 CF5 2BA3 E2 E796.jpg. The Albian groaned as its body fell apart into a shape of 4. If I let its body parts fall onto the city, it'll destroy more parts of the city? Alright, kid. Go all out and let go of your restraint, right? He turned back towards the ground where the Albian's pieces were falling. He gritted his teeth as he started to aggressively slice up the falling parts of the Albian. No way. I won't let this go on. No way, Array. He was slicing up so many parts it was like he was cutting butter with his blade. The boy was completely determined to destroy every part of the beast. No more people will die. No more things will be destroyed. I won't allow it. Ha-ha-ia. He cut the thing about 1,000 times in the speed of light. If there was an estimate to how many tiny pieces he made of the thing, it would probably be in the hundreds of thousands. Eventually, he landed on the ground as he deeply panted. Ha! Ha! I won't let anyone else die. He sat down as he overlooked everything around him. The burning buildings, the destroyed city, all of this. It was a result of villains. Midoriya, huh? He looked up and saw Todoroki, Tokoyami, Hawks, and Endeavor making their way onto the scene as they ran to him. We saw the Albian be sent into the sky and decided to come over to see if you were all right. Tokoyami was worried but also astounded at the pure power Izuku had shown being able to take on that monster, by himself no less. With my help, of course. He turned around and saw it was Midnight, slowly floating down to their level, looking at Izuku with intrigue. So, this is what you could really do. I'm very impressed with you. She clasped her hands together, kicking one of her feet up. I appreciate it, but what about the city? What about? I am already making a call to tell the firefighters that the coast is clear and that they can do their job without danger anymore. The rebuilding process, however, may take a good while. Endeavor put his phone away as he looked around with everyone else. We're going to have to hold back school for at least a week or more, especially after something like this. Well, hey, At least the kiddos get to relax after this whole ordeal, am I right? Well, yeah, after we make sure everything is safe. Eventually, the firefighters came and started putting out the fires, as the others were simply going to make their way to a safe place to get rest and heal. However, through the smokes and flames of what seems to be purgatory, all of you are nothing. All of you are frauds. 6B63078BF9F5B572060 CAC1C884FDFC.jpg. The hero killer was still alive and kicking, walking through the hell fires like the devil himself. Everywhere he went, he paralyzed everyone from his pure presence alone, making them quake in fear. Fakes like all of you and criminals in this society are targets of my purge. I am trying to create a world full of real justice, not the justice that belongs to you fakes. He slowly walked towards the group, all of them stunned and horrified, all besides the traumatized green-haired boy. So try it, fakes. I dare any of you to STO-Boom. Izuku palmed his face, slamming him straight into the floor. Midoriya - fake heroes. World of real justice. He gritted his teeth, grabbing the hero killer's scarf with one hand, gripping Lostvein in the other. Someone like you could never make a world of real justice because you kill innocent children. He screamed into the hero killer's face as he recoiled a bit due to his weakened state as he looked up at the boy, staring into his eyes. You killed 2 people of the Ingenium line, all because they wanted to impress their parents? Is that what you call real justice? It's almost like his whole world went dark. The only thing he could see from his point of view was himself and the man who ripped 2 kids away from their family for the sake of what he called justice. You hurt people and rip families away from each other, then try to justify it by spouting bullshit. Ida looked up to his brother and loved his family. They both did. Now his parents have to bury 2 of their kids in the span of a single month. He started to violently sob. Nobody else said a word. All they could hear is the sound of water and sizzling from the slowly ending fire. He lifted up Lostvein, looking down at the hero killer with only pure malice and vengeance in his eyes. I should kill you and maybe you'll understand. Midoriya. Someone grabbed onto his wrist, stopping him doing what he was about to do. What? He stopped, seeing Midnight look at him with a mix of sorrow and pity. Then looking past her to see everyone else concerned and looking at him. Then finally, he looked down at Stain. His mask had fallen off to reveal his face. His eyes were completely white. It seemed that the damage he had done to Stain finally caught up to him. He dropped him and looked down, his breath accelerating as he backed up into Midnight, consequently blacking out from a combination of fatigue and panic. Next day, Yoo-hoo, wakey eggs and bakey kiddo, AH-. He woke up from his rest, taking fast and sharp breaths. Woa kiddo, take a chill pill. Don't want you passing out on us again. Hawks gently assured him and patting his back, having a few bandages of his own. Izuku looked around to see Todoroki was in the hospital bed across from him. Morning, Midoriya. Are you all right? He was worried for his friend as he had passed out at the end of the seemingly final confrontation with Stain. I am fine. He rubbed his head, looking at Hawks as he questioned, Where's my sword? Hawks perked up a bit as he put his hands in his pockets. Hold up now. I should have it right. He dug through his pockets for a moment and then pulled out the sword of Lostvein, showing to Izuku it was still in tip-top shape, with a new sheathed on top of it. Whoa, where did? Hawks gave it to him and smiled. Midnight made it for ya, mostly as a way to not accidentally poke people's eyes out with it. He joked as suddenly they received a knock on the door. HM? Oh, looks like they're here. Izuku and Todoroki both perked up as they looked towards the door, seeing some type of dogman, but it wasn't just any dogman. 539F2401845B73402860AE60AEC85A.jpg. It was the chief of the police force, Kenji Tsugarame. Todoroki and Midoriya were obviously shocked and confused. What was the chief doing here? Ain't he just a cute big puppy? Meliodas was none the wiser, however. The police force. What kind of business does he have with us and Midoriya? The King of Fairies was just as confused as the 2 boys, wondering why he would be here at a time like this. This could most likely mean the worst. You too. You're the ones who took down the hero killer. Correct. Yes. They responded in unison. Wasn't it mostly you though, Midori - not the time, Meliodas. Regarding the hero killer's arrest, we figured out he had gained serious stab wounds, burns, and broken bones to boot. Woof. This so far seemed to be quite normal to hear. His injuries are what most likely made him pass out at the end. He is currently receiving treatment under strict guard. Woof. Though it's surprisingly, he seemed to have a healing factor which is allowing us to work quicker, and we had also discovered that he has 7 hearts pumping blood for him and keeping him steady. This didn't sit right with either of them. That murderer was being treated and being helped to stay alive for what? Just to be thrown in prison and break out again. It was completely fucking stupid. We have came to the conclusion through heavy research that he is what is known as a demon in medieval times, as he possesses 7 hearts like other demons in history. This somewhat shook Izuku to his core. Were they experimenting on him? No, that can't be it. They must have just found that out during their treatment. He didn't know, but he didn't want to find out either. Back to the topic at hand, however. Woof. Since you two are UA students, I'm sure you already know that when superpowers were becoming the norm, the police attached high importance to leadership and standards, assuring quirks would not be used as weapons, which is what created the hero profession to fill that gap. Woof. Endeavor and Midnight stood in the room, facing forward as they continued to let Mr. Tagarum speak. Hawks getting up and standing by Tagarum as to follow suit and be respectful. For an individual's use of force and power that can easily kill others, actions normally appropriate to denounce, to be accepted officially, is thanks to early heroes who followed ethics and rules of the profession. Woof. This caused Izuku and Shoto to remember all the wounds they inflicted on the hero killer from start to finish. From Shoto's chastiful all the way up to Izuku palming his face into the floor in the end, once everything was said and done. Even up against the hero killer, for uncertified individuals to cause injury with their quirks without specific instructions from their guardians or supervisors is a clear violation against the rules. The two of you, and the pro-heroes Endeavor, Midnight, and Hawks must receive strict punishment. Todoroki and Izuku were floored and shocked. Todoroki gave a look of frustration and anger as he looked down, clutching his green chastiful pillow in annoyance. Though he didn't want to speak up, he was worried for being scolded. That's so stupid. Are they saying we should have let him be on his way after doing all of that? Settle, Todoroki. I am sure we can talk to Midoriya about it once this is. The bed creaked as Izuku got up, Todoroki looking up in surprise despite everyone else keeping a neutral expression. Todoroki is the reason we found the hero killer in the first place. Midoriya. If Todoroki hadn't told us about what was happening, none of us would have came here, and he would have died too likewise. No one realized that the hero killer had appeared. The demon markings started to flash on his face for a moment as he clenched his fist. Are you saying we should have watched the rules and watched people be murdered? Are you saying that as long as it turns out all right, it's okay to bend the rules? He stared down at him with an unchanging calm expression. He paused for a moment but didn't back down from this debate. Isn't it a hero's job to save people? He closed his eyes and responded coldly. That is why you are not a full-fledged hero yet. Goodness, what are you being taught by Yue and Aizawa? Woof. His eyes widened as he fully showed his demon marking, gritting his teeth as he walked towards the dog in anger. You wanted me to let Native and Ida die for nothing? Midoriya, no. Midnight got in front of him, putting a hand out as a signal to get him to stop and listen a bit more. Hang on a second. Hear him out until the end. Izuku, annoyed, turned off his demon mark as he looked back at the chief for an answer. That was the official opinion of the police. Izuku's eyes widened as his look somewhat softened, releasing the fist his hand balled up into. And the punishment and such would only happen if this were all made public. Woof. He started to scratch his nose. If this were made public, you would probably be applauded by the public, but you not be able to escape the punishment. He then stopped scratching his nose. On the other hand, this is a bit underhanded, but if it not made public, we could say Midnight had used her quirk to blow the giant beast into pieces and dealt with the hero killer even before that. Then it would end there. He proceeded to put his hands in his pockets as he continued. It would crush the violation, but It would also mean nobody would know of your good deeds and judgments or achievements. He then gave them the choice, option 1, to let everyone know the real story and have them face the consequences, or let all this go under the rug. Personally, I don't want to be the one to find fault with promising young ones. He gave a thumbs up. The two boys looked at each other and bowed. Please take care of it. Izuku then looked up at him. Sir, as a favor, please start with that next time. They both apologized and life seemingly went on, the echoes of their experience eating away at them. As the adults left the room, letting the boys heal up a bit more, Izuku felt stumped, confused, maybe even spiteful. They had said great things and it was nice to hear, but that one comment, the comment about not being a fully fledged hero due to his decisions by the police force, he questioned. What is heroism? 2 days later, a blonde man sat in his apartment in Hosu City after the incident. He had been left with a growing determination, a determination that he hasn't felt in what felt like decades, as suddenly he gained a call from his phone. Are you doing all right, Toshi? I heard about the incident at Hosu and wanted to check up on if you were doing okay. Yes, I am. What has you calling Gran Torino? You don't have to call me by my hero name, you decaying Sunday. Haha. I'm sorry, I just thought it would be disrespectful to not call you that after all this time. The man rested in his bed as he overlooked the rebuilding Hosu City. Many people were still waiting on houses to be fixed since the incident, but it was up to a manageable point. Let me explain why I'm calling. I've heard from Hawks that the hero killer had an ideology similar to your own. He flinched but got up and chuckled awkwardly as he rubbed his arm. Mansura Hiko, I left that stuff behind me dash. That's not what Midnight told me. This caused him to pause as Gran Torino continued to explain. Both your ideologies have this charisma to it that inspires people to follow and be like you, and I fear villains may use it to gain more control of the populace. He twirled one of his hairs as he grimaced a bit. I thank you for worrying about me, but I really don't think I am cut out for this. Not since I first fought that man. Yeah, and that man is currently back and running. He nearly dropped his phone out of shock as he stumbled. Toshi? Toshi, he quickly answered him as he deeply inhaled. You mean the one who killed Nana? Yeah. I advise that you become a pro-hero again if you want to help the next generation fight against this threat that's aided you for so long, old friend. UA High School, correct? Yup, that's the one. Midnight, and I can help you get re-registered, old friend, or should I say pride. Day before recuperation. On a rooftop in Hosu City, you could see a pale-skinned man and his subordinate overlooking the people and all the destruction. This is so infuriating. Tamura Shigaraki decayed the binoculars, the ashes falling onto the floor and being swept away by a gust of wind. Are you not pleased with the results, Tamura? Kurojairi questioned, looking over the city with him as he watched his hand-covered master scratch his neck with infuriation. That'll depend on what happens tomorrow. For now, though, let's head back. Kurojairi did as he commanded, opening a portal and leaving the scene of the Hellbent City. Unbeknownst to them, however, a news reporter had caught them lurking over the city. Present day. Tokoyami leaned on the hospital room walls. He and Hawks had decided to stay to keep watch of the boys' recovery process. Izuku had healed quite fast, though Tokoyami knew it was due to his demon anatomy. Hawks was none the wiser, as the other heroes at UA hadn't given much information to him, which would be a lie. He just didn't pay attention all that much. The others, Bakugo and Best Jeanist sidekicks, sat in one room together, watching the number 2 hero Best Jeanist lecture them. I understand all your wants to go to Hosu, but the other heroes have this covered. For now, we need to get back into the swing of things to help young Bakugo mold into a better hero. This, however, didn't sit right with the angry undead hero, watching as Best Jeanist lectures them. Can this guy quit running his mouth yet? I'm already tired of listening. Calm down, Pomeranian. Wouldn't want to mess up your new haircut, would ya? Yes. Jeanist had given Bakugo a comb-over days prior, which he had already ruined days before getting it again, trying not to burst out in anger or else it would quite literally explode back to its original style. Kirishima and Tetsu had also been punished and lectured by their internship hero for trying to answer Todoroki's SOS. However, 2 of their classmates actually shared concern far beyond the others, that being Uraraka and Momo. Back in the hospital. Ring ring. Izuku felt his phone ringing, getting up from his hospital bed. Gesturing to the others, he was gonna take the call. Once he got to the telephone corner area, he picked up the phone, putting his phone to his ear. "Hello, Izuku. Are you and Todoroki okay? I got the location message he sent." "Oh, well, we're doing just fine dash. Just recuperating in the hospital is all." "That's good. If you don't mind me asking, what happened anyways?" The boy took pause, looking down with slight hesitance. He wasn't exactly comfortable explaining what had happened, though he also didn't want to make it seem like she had made him uncomfortable. He chose the latter. "Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm just glad you guys are okay. Thanks. I just wish I could have maybe been faster to help." "Don't worry, you did great from what you told me. It sounds like you've been through a lot. You get some rest. You can tell me everything later." "Thanks." He heard a masked voice through the phone, Uraraka frantically apologizing before calmly telling Izuku she would talk to him later at school. She hung up the phone with Izuku looking at his phone, shaking and rattling like a skeleton. "I can't believe I talked to a girl on the phone. It's like she was whispering in my ear." "Okay kid, let's calm down, it's just a phone call dash." He didn't expect him to be this happy and nervous over a phone call of all things. Gunhead martial arts. Uraraka hanged up her phone call with Izuku. Gunhead bashfully put a hand up to his mask. "Was that a boy?" Seeing this reaction, the brunette blushed and slightly stammered. "Why yeah well, it isn't like that dash." Gunhead simply laughed and rubbed her head, signifying they got back to training. Though she was sort of suspicious and worried not to mention to get stronger, it was all really confusing. She was worried for Izuku, Todoroki, and the others who may had gotten involved, though she was also suspicious if Izuku had told her everything. He wasn't lying or anything, but he had seemingly left out details about Ida, really only saying he was gravely injured, and nothing beyond that. Through those emotions, though, she had a feeling to get stronger. She wanted to access those powers she had used back in the sports festival, but had little success in doing so, though she did gain one thing out of it, which was healing, which was very useful, don't get her wrong, but she wanted more. She wanted to be on the front lines, as strong as Todoroki, Bakugo, Momo, Mina, and Izuku. The martial arts training was very helpful, though, as to become physically stronger so she could be in close-quarter combat more safely. Back at the hospital, however, the awkwardness had subsided. He looked at himself through the glass window. He saw Stain staring back at him through the window. He covered his mouth, shaking it off, and his reflection went back to normal. He took a deep sigh, going back to the hospital room with guilt weighing on his shoulders. He hadn't told Uraraka what exactly had happened with Ida. He couldn't bear imagining her reaction and distracting her. Not to mention he felt as if she would blame him for not being strong enough. "I should head back. The others are probably worrying for me." He made his way back to the hospital room, surprised to see Todoroki was gone. "Where's Todoroki?" "He got a call from Yaoyorozu. Didn't you see him on your way here?" "No, I didn't. I guess I wasn't paying attention. He'll be back soon." Telephone corner. "Todoroki, are you okay? I got your distress signal." He sort of sweated a bit. He forgot he sent that to everyone else. It likely scared everyone in the class once they had checked it. "I'm sorry for scaring you, Yaoyorozu. I got into contact with the hero killer, so I sent my location to everyone in hopes I could get help." "I see. I can assume that situation is over now, right?" "MHM. I could hear her sigh of relief through the phone as she continued to talk to me about it. "Is Ida okay? I heard he was taking Manuel's internship in Hosu." "Oh boy, this is where things got ugly. Ida is... Oh my god." He could hear utter devastation through the phone. He could only assume what was next. "I'm sorry. If only I was stronger, then maybe I could've." No. Please don't blame yourself, Todoroki. It isn't your fault. You don't have to say this to make me feel better. I'm not saying that just to make you feel better. I don't want you to blame yourself over something you had no control over. No, it isn't. Please don't say negative things about yourself. She paused as she answered someone else. It must have been her internship talking to her. Apologies, Todoroki. I have a commercial to film with Ms. Uwabami. We can continue this talk later. Please stay safe and be nice on yourself." "I see. I will see you later, Yaoyorozu." She hung up the phone as he took pause. He sort of was surprised. He didn't know if she was taking this well just based off of that, but he was sort of surprised she was telling him not to blame himself. Though he had to admit, her company and worry was something he appreciated. 2 days later, in a hostess bar, 2 men sat on chairs. One was a chubbier-looking bald guy with an eye patch, while one had white hair with a smoking gun. Business really is booming. People are beginning to break the law more in doubts of the heroes ever since the Hosu incident. You're telling me? Now, I got something to tell you. You people specialize in quality, correct? Well, I got the opportunity of a lifetime. The white-haired man lit his cigar with his gun, putting it in his mouth, showing the other man a video. Have you seen this video? The hero killer is the man of the hour. The video explained much of the hero killer's backstory and his such. Hero killer Stain's real name, Kaizome Akaguro. He had always wanted to become a hero, based on clips from Endeavor's debut. He had enrolled into a private high school for hopeful heroes, but upon seeing the reality of the fundamentally corrupt view of heroes within the educational system, he dropped out the summer after his freshman year. Through his late teen years, he made speeches about the need for a hero revival, but concluded words alone are lacking in power. In the decade following that, Akaguro trained and educated himself in the art of killing, all to fulfill his duty. He also possessed something beyond his simple quirk known as blood curdle. After scanning him, they had figured out he possessed 7 hearts rather than just a single one an average human had. After major researching through old books and using technology, they had figured out Akaguro was a demon. Though they didn't understand how, his parents had no amount of demon blood or DNA in them, recorded by a bystander. If someone isn't stained with blood, the white-haired man paused the video, looking at his accomplice. From the punks with a few bad guys on the run, anyone who's anyone, myself included, of course, villains gathered round. They were like wild animals who had just found a new animal to be crowned king of the animal kingdom. All that scattered evil around out there, we're all gripped by the same fever. We'll all be drawn to the organization he was working with, the League of Villains. It has been 3 days since the hero killer incident. Tokoyami and Izuku were leaving Hawk's agency. However, before they left, their teacher had a few things to say to them. It's been nice working with you too. I know this may not have been the best hero workplace training in the world. That would be the understatement of the year. But make sure you two keep working hard. Don't forget to get some shut-eye in the meantime too. I'm sure you're both in need of some. He wasn't wrong about that at all, especially since the class would be attending a funeral tomorrow. Ida's funeral. The walk to the train was silent. That is until Izuku broke that silence. You alright, Tokoyami? The bird boy turned to his green-haired demon friend. I'm not exactly at my best at the moment, but I can still manage. What about you? That's nice to hear. As for me, I feel... He paused, looking down at his feet. Staying quiet, Tokoyami looked at him in slight worry. Midoriya. Sorry I spaced out a bit there. I feel fine, just a bit. Mentally drained at the moment. That's understandable. I'm somewhat tired myself as well. Eventually they made it to the train, which was also a silent ride back home for the both of them for multiple reasons. Felt like things would never be the same again. They both got off the train. This time now they were walking to UA. Maybe they could calm down talking to their classmates. Next day, UA High School. Everyone in Class 1A was talking to each other about internships. They all seemingly had a good time from how they all looked. Izuku kindly waved to Shoto, who waved back at him. I'm so jealous. You guys got to fight villains. It was just some evacuation procedurals and support, not real villains. Still, that's awesome. Mina and Jiro talked. It seems Mina had a good time at her internship. For me, it was just patrol training, though we did catch some foreign smugglers. That's also awesome. Izuku stood near Todoroki watching the girls talk. Mina seems to have gotten a great time at her internship. She's always wanted to do a bit of real hero work. She's usually very happy and excited when it's something she's passionate about. That's nice to hear. Mina then turned to Uraraka, smiling, who noticeably had her back turned silently. What about you, Uraraka? The brunette looked at her hand as a purple aura started to leak off her. It was very eye-opening. Seems like she had an awakening. Is this what happens when you sign up for the battle hero? She started to swing her fist at the air. She had seemingly finally unlocked her battle spirit. Kaminari noticed the other three. You three definitely improved the most though. Tokoyami, Izuku, and Todoroki noticeably perked up, looking at the others. Most of the class agreed, actually going up to the three and asking questions. So how was it fighting the hero killer? I bet you guys hooped his butt together. What Kaminari said just made the three of them feel worst. They didn't know what exactly happened, did they? We got saved by Endeavor. He was stronger than we thought. Todoroki kept his composure, simply telling them what the police chief had told them instead of the actual truth. Geez, for real. He must have been really strong if Midoriya and Todoroki couldn't beat him together. Toru shook her sleeves around as from what Todoroki and Izuku did in the festival, it felt almost impossible to even hear. We didn't exactly fight together. Me and Tokoyami got there late because Todoroki sent a distress message, which wasn't a lie, unlike what Todoroki had said earlier. Kaminari smiled a bit, rubbing his neck. I kind of hate to admit it, Stain is pretty cool despite being a villain. Once they heard Kaminari say that, all of them went silent. Izuku's hand balling up into a fist as he looked down, trying to keep his face calm. Todoroki wasn't hiding much, just visibly scowling at Kaminari for saying that. Guys? Wait, crap dash. You moron. Apologize. Jiro proceeded to stick her earphone jack into Kaminari's ear, causing him to jolt in pain. Hey, are you three okay? Huh. Todoroki looked up to see it was Momo, clearly worried for the three of them. After all, they were her responsibility as class vice president. She also still remembered that talk she had with Todoroki. Yeah. Thanks for asking, Yaoyorozu. It's no problem. Eventually, a new face came into the classroom. Some who was very tall and had the pressure almost akin to the sun. Hello, students. I'll be the one teaching you today. His voice boomed across the classroom as everyone stared at him. Izuku, however, recognized the man. He was in a yellow tuxedo with a blue tie. 704 ed 4 AE39 C4 EC67 BA0289 B8594 C82C0.jpg. That's the man I saved in Hosu. Man, look at him, all fancy for his first day at work. Surprised he could even find something that fits him. They really don't make it like they did in my era dash. He wasn't gonna say anything, but that clearly didn't stop the nearly 11-foot tall man from noticing him anyways. Ah, young man in the green, I didn't know you applied for this school. Seems like we've crossed paths again. Everyone then looked at Izuku, making him the center of attention. You know this guy? Why, yeah. We helped each other out in Hosu. He was really strong. Before we start class, I shall introduce myself. I am Toshinori Yagi, though you can call me Sunshine if you'd like, since that is my hero name after all. Bakugo raised his hand. Toshinori pointed at him. So how come we barely ever heard of ya? You some pro hero from another country or something? The man closed his eyes and laughed a bit at Bakugo's tone. Not quite, I retired a few years ago. Though since crime has noticeably gone up, I came out of retirement. After that, he ordered everyone outside the class. This will be a follow-up on your internship training. A rescue training race. Nobody said anything. It felt so weird. Usually Ida would say something, but he wasn't here anymore. It seemingly put everyone else off too, though Toshinori continued his lesson nevertheless. This is Field Gamma. It's a dense spread of factories that wind together to make a network of maze-like alleys. He further explained that they would be in 4 teams of 5, going one at a time. Whoever saved him first would be the winner of their respective race, which would start at the border. The first set of students to go up was Izuku, Shiro, Mina, Shinso, and Ojiro. The class talked about the possible winner of the race, most of them putting their bets on Mina or Shiro due to their amazing abilities for traveling in a place like this, while most of them also thought either Ojiro and Shinso would be last. I think Mina will come in first. She's got some crazy flying abilities, Uraraka said calmly as she sat down crisscrossed, watching the screen. See, someone agrees with me, though it was Mineta, so she was starting to think of changing her answer to Shiro or Izuku. The race was set with an explosive start. Mina and Shiro flew past the rest of the competition. I knew you were someone I had to watch out for, Mina. Same thing with you, Shiro. Your tape abilities make for one heck of an airborne Phi dash. Suddenly a blur flew past them as they both looked ahead. It was Midoriya, 68D3F3CC77CE4D168D933F97F7505999.jpg. Izuku flew past them with his seemingly newly grown wings. Everyone else watching was awestruck. Not only was Izuku really strong, durable, had regeneration, 6 hearts and all that, but he could also fly. Seriously, what couldn't he do? This didn't deter them though. In fact, it made them more determined to best him. Don't think this is over, Midoriya. Mina started to use her gust to wind to fly faster and catch up with Izuku, nearly blowing Zero off course in the process. Whoa, hey dash. Ha! Izuku looked back to see Mina steadily catching up to him with a determined look on her face. Just because you got some fancy new wings doesn't mean you'll best me. He squinted, simply turning away and speeding up as well. He didn't know if he needed to use his demon mark. If he did use it, likely it wouldn't be as much of a struggle. Mina very slowly tried her best to catch up. However, it was too slow and they had already made it to the end. Izuku got first, Mina second, Zero third, Shinso fourth, and Ojiro last. I'm impressed. You all seem very profound in how to use your quirks. Especially you, young man. He pointed at Izuku, who was spacing out a bit. Hawa dash. You have quite the handle on your power. You're even better than some pro heroes at using your quirk. Same with you, young lady. Thanks, though I really wish I won. She sighed a bit. Despite all these congratulations and applause, Izuku wasn't satisfied with it. There was so much better he could do. He could have finished it faster. Why can't he be better? Boys' locker room. After the exercise they had done, all the students had to change out of their hero costumes and head back to class. Kirishima and Kaminari, however, were a bit on edge, mostly due to Ida's absence. Man, it's still so weird not seeing Ida here. Yeah, it's like a whole parallel universe. To say they were worried was an understatement. Ida was never the type to miss school, even if he had the option to without consequences. However, Mineta tried to take advantage of the fact the arrow eyebrow boy wasn't here, trying to peek through the same hole that led to the girls' locker room, uncontested. As worried as I am, maybe I can finally take this time to peep on the girls' locker room. This'll be the greatest stealth mission in UA School's history dash. He looked through the hole and saw his worst nightmare. A bunch of sweaty and naked dudes. Awea. This isn't the girls' locker room. He was right, it wasn't. Shinso simply caught the boy peeping and used his ability to play Mineta's worst nightmare. In real time, the great boy was on the floor foaming at the mouth. Mineta! What happened? Zero shook Mineta, trying to wake him from his nightmare. I saw him trying to peep. Shinso nonchalantly continued to change, Zero looking at him somewhat sweating. Hardcore dude. It may have been much, but it was necessary. Later, UA hallways. Izuku walked through the halls to the break room. He was called there by Toshinori. Not that he knew why he was called, but it was likely important. He opened the door and found Toshinori in his night form, simply asking him to sit down, which Izuku followed his instruction. I know you've been through a lot, kid, and I'm sorry I had to call you in out of nowhere like this, especially with the funeral you have coming up later today. Yeah. The room went silent for a moment, until it was broken by Izuku. What exactly did you call me here for? Alright, I called you here because your power, it's so similar to someone I remembered fighting back in my heyday. This somewhat caught Izuku off guard, but he felt like he immediately knew who this someone was. Are you talking about All for One? This also surprised Toshinori. You know who he is? Unfortunately, I do. He looked at Toshinori, somewhat hesitant to tell him why, but he swallowed his fear. He's my father. Toshinori's eyes widened. Izuku, seeing this, looked away, clearly ashamed. That man had a kid? Does anyone else know about this? The boy nodded. Only the people in Class 1A know. Otherwise, it has been completely hidden from the public by the rest of the heroes at UA. I see. The room once again fell into a tense silence as Izuku looked down. Toshinori could see the boy's shame just spilling out of him. Do you know the story behind your father? He looked back up, clearly interested as he raised an eyebrow. No, I actually don't. He wasn't around for my whole childhood, so. Toshinori readjusted himself on the couch as he started to explain. Not only did his father possess the same demonic powers as Izuku, but another quirk called All for One, hence his name. It could steal quirks, but also hand it to others as well. All for one, meaning everything was for him to take? He nodded, then continued to explain. Back when society hadn't adapted to the big changes, it almost completely broke down. The definition of what it meant to be human was heavily blurred. Izuku chiming into his explanation. Someone important once said that Without the advent of the extraordinary, humanity would be enjoying interstellar travel right now. Yes, and in that age of confusion and disorder, one man took initiative and brought other people together. You may have heard about this. He explained the all-for-one would steal quirks from other people, and with his overwhelming power he spread his influence across the world, making people commit terrible acts and had become the overlord of evil. Nobody knows where he came from, but he was a very powerful man. When a person has power, they instinctively seek a way to use it. The textbooks don't tell you about the Yakuza and what they're up to, do they? I heard a bit about that on the internet, though it all felt so insane, so I assumed it was fake news, especially since nothing in the textbook said anything. Not only did he get people to submit to him, it's also said that if he really trusts you, he will give you the blood of a demon, which morphs people and gifts them with demonic power such as his own, which was arguably better than almost any quirk he could give. He looked at Izuku, keeping an intense stare in his eyes. It was also just as deadly. If it was too much for someone to bear, they would swell up and explode into a pool of blood. Same with quirks, except many would simply become mere puppets unable to speak. Izuku's eyes widened as this revelation, as he even started to sweat a bit. Just like the Nomu, Toshinori nodded, but continued with his little story. However, there is this one case where his granting of a quirk caused a mutation. All for One had a younger human brother who was fragile and small. Despite that, he had a strong sense of justice. The things his brother had done caused him pain, so he opposed that tyrant. His elder brother gave him a power stock quirk, but it was unknown whether it was an act of kindness or forcing him to submit. They both thought the latter. Wait, so, yes. It turned out he hadn't actually been quirkless from the start, though neither him or anyone else had known it. He had a completely useless quirk, one that allowed him to pass his quirk on to others. But then the Power Stalker quirk and the transferring quirks were fused, which created a quirk named One for All. Izuku looked on in shock, with Toshinori somewhat laughing at his expression. An ironic tale, no? Justice is always born from evil. That's pretty incredible. What happened to One for All? I haven't heard of it. Toshinori stopped at his question, pinching the bridge of his nose as he took a deep sigh. The quirk died out, ending the generation before mine. I defeated All for One. I thought we had finally took him down, but he survived. He had been moving for years now too, seemingly, since he had you and possibly other children like you. That's terrible. Toshinori frowned somewhat, realizing how dark the conversation had gotten. I am not always a reliable factor in battle. My power sunshine only works in the daytime, something he has avoided all this time, like a vampire. He looked at Izuku, hope sparking in his eyes. You, however, you can reliably step up to the plate and take that man down for good. You're right. Izuku stood up, revealing his arm with the Sin of Wrath marking on it. As the hero of Wrath and son of All for One, I promise I'll work as hard as I can to defeat my father. Toshinori looked at him for a moment as he made this declaration. He started to question himself and what he was telling Izuku to do. Was this burdening him with too much? He dismissed Izuku back to class. In class, when Izuku made it back to class, the sight was depressing. Everyone was either crying or on the verge of tears. He looked at Aizawa, who also seemed really depressed with the rest of his class. What happened? The man was silent for a moment, before exhaling. I told them we're holding Ida's funeral later today.
Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. I hope you enjoyed exploring the fascinating what-if scenario of Deku. If you found this video entertaining and thought-provoking, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to bring you more captivating content in the future. Stay tuned for more exciting what-ifs coming your way. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep embracing the power of imagination. Goodbye everyone.